Chapter 602. On the morning of the 19th, in the main battlefield of the Zhonglin Valley, under Lin Muyu's defense, nearly 50,000 elites of the Longdan army camp set up 3-8 formation diagrams to fight against the demons. The war drums resounded. The war was about to begin. In the direction of the Zhonglin Valley, Qianfeng's army appeared all over the mountains. The armor demons roared ferociously, the winged men covered the sky, and the giant beasts covered with scabs roared and beat the war drums on their chests, making ear-piercing sounds. However, at a place a mile away from the Longdan army camp, Qianfeng ordered to stop advancing and began to reorganize the formation. Under the command of the high-level demons, the armor demons carried their heavy shields and sharp blades and began to form the formation clumsily. The formation changed according to the rhythm of the war drums. Am I seeing this right? Lin Muyu rode on treading snow and looked at the formation of the armor demons from afar. Where did Qianfeng learn the humans' Jianghu formation? Isn't this Brother Feng's specialty? Zheng Yifan stroked his beard and laughed. Qianfeng is indeed a smart general. He actually mastered the Jianghu formation so quickly. However, he overestimated the intelligence of the armor demons. Do these idiots really know how to use the Jianghu formation? They won't have the chance to use it. Lin Muyu sneered. Su Muyun said, Commander Yu, how do you plan to fight this battle? Deterrence is the priority, killing is the secondary. It's best not to fight at close range, otherwise we will suffer heavy losses. Lin Muyu pointed to the north and said, Shenhou, please lead the Shenwei battalion and hold the ground for me. Don't let the demons attack the Longdan army camp. Leave the rest to me. Yes, I understand. Zheng Yifan smiled and nodded his head. He didn't know when it started, but Zheng Yifan's hostility towards Lin Muyu had completely disappeared. On the contrary, Zheng Yifan had been fighting for his entire life, and he realized that this kid was showing more and more of his strengths. Moreover, his combat techniques were worth learning. This 8 formation diagram was something that he had to learn sooner or later. Qin Yin was sitting in the middle of the army, riding a fast horse. Although she was eager to kill more armor demons, she was stopped by Lin Muyu. As a dignified empress, this was not something she should do. Dong dong dong. The battle drums became more and more intense as Qianfeng arranged 11 heaven and earth battle formations. Nearly 100,000 armored demons slowly moved forward and started to crush the battle formation of the Longdan army camp. Actually, it was already powerful enough for the armored demons to rush forward randomly. Now that they used heaven and earth battle formations, it could be seen that Qianfeng thought highly of Lin Muyu. He thought highly of Lin Muyu. Prepare the heavy weapons. Lin Muyu said lightly. Sidu Shui, who was on the side, flew up the platform and waved the flag. Immediately, the drums of the brave dragon battalion began to beat loudly. The front row of spear cavalry dispersed, revealing the ballistas and arrow boxes that were hidden behind them. For this battle, Lin Muyu had brought almost all of the heavy equipment that she had with her. In the distance, the armor demons roared angrily as they got closer and closer. Luo Exen stood at the side and held her spear tightly. Her face was full of hope and excitement as she said, Commander Yu, is it time to attack? No, wait a little longer. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes. She was calculating the distance. The two sides were already 300 meters away from each other, but this distance was not enough. She had to wait for the armor demons to get closer before killing them. Looking up at Sidu Shui, Lin Muyu ordered, Prepare the magic crystal cannons. Calibrate the angle and shoot from 300 meters away. Sidu Shui raised the command flag and waved it 3 times. Then she repeated this action repeatedly. Suddenly, there was a commotion in the middle of the Longdan army camp. The crowd dispersed, revealing a total of 50 magic crystal cannons. The muzzles of the cannons were slowly adjusted and raised, aiming at the front, forming an upward angle of about 25 degrees. Su Muyun frowned and said, Commander Yu, if we don't attack now, we won't be able to resist once the armor demons charge at us. Don't worry, Cloud King. Lin Muyu looked at the distance between the two sides confidently. When the armor demons were less than 100 meters away from the Longdan army camp, Lin Muyu suddenly pulled out her long sword and shouted, Magic crystal cannons, take turns to fire. Sidu Shui waved the command flag and made an attacking posture. In the next moment, the powerful recoil of the magic crystal cannons caused a series of tremors on the ground, as if an earthquake had happened. There were a total of 51 magic crystal cannons hidden in the Longdan army camp. 3 magic crystal cannons formed a group. Every time they fired, 1 magic crystal cannons would fire, while the other 2 magic crystal cannons would cool down and fire 17 cannons at once. Boom boom boom. 300 meters away, the ground shook violently. Purple mushroom clouds soared into the sky. Thunder, lightning, and flames raged along the ground. Basically, the armor demons that were hit directly turned into ashes. The most terrifying part of the explosion of the magic crystal cannons was the baptism of thunder and lightning in a wide range. The armor demons within 50 meters were directly killed, the armor demons within 100 meters were severely injured, and the airflow within 200 meters was affected. In a split second, the battlefield turned dark. Numerous armored demons were killed or wounded. What was more, the blast wave of the magic crystal cannons burst out from the center of the battle formation of the armored demons, causing the armored demons in the front to lose their balance and fall to the ground one after another, dropping their shields and weapons. Right at this moment, the dense arrow boxes and ballistas of the Longdan battalion started to fire. Puff, puff, puff. The positional warfare completely turned into a massacre. The armor demons that were caught off guard had no time to raise their shields to defend. In the blink of an eye, they were shot to death by the arrow boxes and ballistas. Even the soldiers in the Longdan army camp who were close to the armor demons raised their longbows and shot the white drill arrows at close range. In less than 2 minutes, the second round of bombardment began. Purple mushroom clouds rose up in the sky. For the demons, this was just like a nightmare. My God! In the distance, in the middle of the demon army, Qian Feng was riding on a warhorse. Suddenly he wailed. It turned out that the fire-breathing weapon that the winged person mentioned was this thing. It was so terrifying. Qian Feng couldn't help but close his eyes. He felt an indescribable chill in his heart and ordered, "The formation is useless. Beat the drum and order the armor demons to rush forward, break up the human's position, and destroy that weapon. Send out the flying snake troop to break forward along the left and right flank of the position. We must take down the position and kill the remaining soldiers of the Empire." The sound of the war drums became more intense. The armor demons were also in a killing frenzy. They stepped on the corpses of their companions and rushed forward. Their roars were endless. There were also sharp cries coming from the sky. On the horizon, the huge figures of flying snakes appeared in the sky above the forest in the distance. "What is that?" Lin Muyu could not help but frown. "Flying snake." Qin Yin said softly, "This kind of flying snake was mentioned in the intelligence. It is said that the destruction of Ji Yao's troops was caused by these flying snakes. 1 flying snake is enough to resist 10,000 soldiers." "Damn it," Lin Muyu waved her hand and said, "Fengxi, send a letter to Wei Chou and order him to lead the warships to the north bank and attack the flying snakes. We must stop them." "Yes, madam." A few minutes later, a bird flew towards the direction of Daojiang River. "Magic crystal cannons, get ready to aim at the flying snakes." Lin Muyu said with a stern look, "Send out the barbarian shield battalion to stop the attack of the armor demons." Since the devil race had used their secret weapon, the humans could not hold back anymore. Lin Muyu spurred the warhorse and slowly moved forward. He knew that the front line needed his holy king's power. Qin Yin also carried the heaven-suppressing sword and walked side by side. Lin Muyu did not stop them. He wanted to see how strong Qin Yin's cultivation was. Jie. In the air in front of them, a flying snake blotted out the sky and covered the earth as it came crashing down. Facing the attacks of the boxes of arrows and the ballistae, the scales on its head all bounced off with a dang-dang sound. The scales were really too hard, even the white drill arrows couldn't penetrate it. The force field in her body surged and a blue light shot up to the sky. The flying snake launched a power absorption attack. For a moment, the front line was in chaos. Many soldiers' weapons and shields were absorbed one after another. Screams could be heard. In a blink of an eye, dozens of soldiers flew into the mouth of the flying snake. "What are you waiting for? Fire the cannons!" Lin Muyu looked back. Sidu Shui clenched her teeth and waved the flag at the risk of exploding. Bang bang. The earth trembled as the two magic crystal cannons landed on the flying snake's head at the same time and exploded instantly. Boom, boom. Almost nothing could be seen in front of them. A purple mushroom cloud soared into the sky and a shock wave blossomed in the air, forcing the armor demons and the soldiers of the Empire to retreat one after another. At the same time, miserable screams could be heard. The flying snake was still alive. The magic crystal cannons could not be fired in a short period of time, but the flying snake had to die. Jia, two huge bloody holes appeared in the head of the flying snake, and its brain was about to burst out. However, it was still not dead. It roared angrily and continued to activate the force field, killing the soldiers of the Longdan army camp. Bastard! Lin Muyu jumped on the back of the horse and rushed over with her sword. Her two martial souls broke out of her body and merged into the seven luminaries' holy gourd. At the same time she shouted, "Shao Yin, attack from above!" "Okay." Qin Yin's graceful figure jumped onto Lin Muyu's arm. Lin Muyu shouted, and the king's combat flame surged. She pushed her arm up and sent Qin Yin dozens of meters into the sky. Then, she held her sword and slashed at the lower jaw of the flying snake with the seven luminaries' holy gourd. Crack! With a soft sound, the stellar sword split open the flying snake's lower jaw, leaving a long gash. However, Lin Muyu's body was forcefully pulled by the flying snake's force field into its mouth. Lin Muyu did not have the confidence that the dragon blood shield could withstand the teeth's attack. "It's over!" He suddenly felt a chill in his heart. At this moment, there was a sudden pop in the air, and a golden airwave came out. It was Qin Yin's action of summoning the god-binding chains. Lin Muyu was dumbfounded. How did Qin Yin's cultivation improve so much? Qin Yin raised her left palm, and a dazzling golden celestial dragon crystal was formed in her palm. Half a second later, she charged it at the head of the flying snake. Bang! The celestial dragon crystal penetrated the head of the flying snake, and the core of its force field was smashed into pieces. One-hit kill. Chapter 603. Bang, bang, bang. After 3 consecutive bombardments, the purple flames and smoke soared into the sky, illuminating the water surface of the Daojiang River subbasin. On the bank of the river, the warships of the Empire had steadied themselves. The magic crystal cannons on the warships aimed at the huge monster and started to fire. After each shot, the hull of the warships would shake violently, causing heavy ripples on the water surface. The scales on the side of a flying snake's body had been smashed into pieces. Blood was flowing everywhere, but it had also stimulated its bestial nature. It roared and rushed toward the river. Its long body wriggled in the air while a blue beam of light fell from the sky. It opened its bloody mouth and launched an absorption attack on the warships of Jianghu from afar. Not good. Continue the bombardment. Wei Chou clenched his fist and said angrily, "We must stop it no matter what. Continue the bombardment." Sir. Dozens of warships maintained the continuous bombardment. Suddenly, the scales on the face of the flying snake peeled off, and the flesh was badly mutilated. However, the warships couldn't hold on any longer. A warship with rotten wood suddenly cracked and finally collapsed, unable to bear the powerful recoil of the magic crystal cannons. The body of the magic crystal cannons was too heavy. It instantly smashed into the cabin, and the whole warship quickly sank into the water. An adjutant was dumbfounded. He couldn't help but tremble and said, "Sir Wei Chou, we can't hold on anymore. The power of that flying snake is enough to break the warship. Give the order to turn the rudder and retreat." Moreover, the hull of the Navy warship was originally not designed for the magic crystal cannons. It can't bear such shaking at all. Give the order to retreat. Bullshit. Wei Chou suddenly pulled out his sword and pointed it at the adjutant. His eyes were full of disappointment and anger. Look at the battlefield in front of us. So many soldiers of the Empire are using their flesh and blood to fight against the armor demons. Once the Empire is destroyed, what's the point of keeping your navy alive? Continue the bombardment. Without my order, no one is allowed to take half a step back. General Wei. In the distance, a Chiliarch on another warship cupped his hands and said, "There are 3 more flying snakes coming over. What should we do? We might not be able to attract too many at the same time." No, long-range bombardment. Lure all the flying snakes on the shore over. Wei Chou wiped the blood that had flowed out of his nose because of the blast of the magic crystal cannons. He gritted his teeth and said, "Try to reduce the pressure on the troops on the ground. They are suffering more than we are." Yes. Artillery fire filled the air, and battle cries rose to the sky. The area within 10 miles of the plain was in a chaotic battle. Even the remnants of the Godmight Battalion and the Iron Blade Army joined the battle. At the moment of the survival of the Empire, no one seemed to be afraid anymore. Facing the demon army, everyone roared loudly, stepped on the corpses of their companions, and bravely killed. Kill! In the midst of the chaos, Qian Feng led a group of advanced demons to kill the humans. His arms were filled with Guru Devil Force. Suddenly, the sword turned into a blood-red energy field that was tens of meters long. The soldiers of the Longdan army camp in the energy field were all stunned and could not move. The next moment, blood and flesh splattered everywhere. All of them were killed by Qian Feng's sword chi. Seeing Qian Feng charging in person, it seemed that the armor demons were also encouraged. They woke up from their stupor after being hit by the magic crystal cannons. Holding their battle axes, spears, and warhammers, they attacked the humans' position crazily again. Boom! Suddenly, a loud sound came from the humans' position. A huge wave rose into the sky, and a series of explosions took place. All the soldiers within 100 meters were blown into pieces. The magic crystal cannons exploded, which directly triggered the explosion of the other 2 magic crystal cannons nearby. The stored shells were also detonated, creating a vacuum zone in the Longdan army camp like purgatory. The deep pit was full of corpses, and a strong burnt smell filled the air. Lord, Sidu Shue's face was pale. She said, "The magic crystal cannons have been firing for too long, so they exploded. According to Lord Qin Xiling, they have to cool down for an hour before firing again, or they will explode again." Seeing thousands of soldiers of the Longdan army camp disappeared in an instant, Lin Muyu was so distressed that she almost couldn't say a word. She held the star's sword tightly and said, "Stop firing. Cavalry with spears and barbarian infantry, follow me to kill them. We have suffered a heavy loss, but the demons have also suffered a heavy loss. Brothers, pluck up your courage and kill them until they are scared." The people near and far drew their weapons one after another. Situ Sin bit the white soldier's shirt on his sleeve, tore off a piece of cloth, and wrapped the bloody hilt to prevent it from slipping. Then he suddenly raised the long sword and shouted, "My brothers, you are all heroes of the Empire today. Go, it's time to fight the demons." The cavalries of the Longdan army camp launched an attack, while Lin Muyu and Qin Yin galloped side by side at the forefront of the battle formation, facing the formation of Qianfeng. Everyone knew that this war could only end in a bloody battle. If the Empire retreated at this moment, humans would soon be extinct on this continent. Roar, roar, roar. In front of them, a dense group of armor demons roared and rushed over like a tide. Lin Muyu's heart sank, and she stretched her arms slightly. Suddenly, rays of golden light lingered and trembled around her arms, and a powerful force shook the surrounding earth. The god-binding chains and the 7 luminaries' holy gourd slowly gathered together, forming a huge sword in front of her. She pointed the star's sword lightly, and the 7 luminaries' holy sword was added to the long sword. With Lin Muyu and Takshu as the core, it suddenly stabbed forward. The energy of the nearly 20-meter-long 7 luminaries' holy sword easily tore the group of armor demons into pieces. Boom! The group of steel blade army in front of them was torn into pieces. It was Qian Feng's attack. His master devil power turned into a huge blade, and no one knew how many people had died under this huge blade. Roar! The sound of a ferocious beast came from the sky. Another flying snake was coming. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly complain. At this moment, Qin Yin suddenly raised her snow-white arm and blasted it at the empty space in front of her. Bang, bang, bang! Golden crystals broke out of the ground and rushed into the sky in a ladder shape. Qin Yin jumped off the warhorse, held the long sword, and flew into the sky on the dragon crystal. She said, "I will go and deal with the flying snake. Brother Yu, stop Qianfeng." But Lin Muyu roared and rushed toward Qianfeng with the 7 luminaries' holy sword. Qianfeng also saw Lin Muyu, and his eyes turned red when he saw his enemy. He waved the Master Devil power in his hand and pointed it at Lin Muyu. He spurred his warhorse and rushed over. Bang! When the 7 luminaries' holy sword collided with Qianfeng's Master Devil power, the world suddenly lost its color. The dull sound was accompanied by the shock wave, which made people's hearts feel like it was hit. The 7 luminaries' holy sword and the Master Devil power were shattered instantly. Lin Muyu jumped off the warhorse and rushed toward Qianfeng with her sword in hand. When the 2 swords collided, neither of them reduced their strength. They used their strongest strength to shake each other. The cyclone produced by the king's fighting flame and the Master Devil power kept flying up, and the gravel, corpses, and debris around them were all crushed. The people who were fighting had to avoid the battlefield of the 2 peerless masters. Lin Muyu and Qianfeng were both masters of swords. In the blink of an eye, the battlefield was covered with smoke and dust. In the blink of an eye, dozens of swords were exchanged, and each sword created a wave of air, which shook the surrounding cavalry. The web between Qianfeng's thumb and index finger was already bleeding. His helmet fell to the ground, and his long hair was flying in the air. Although he was in a sorry state, his fighting spirit was extremely high. He used all his strength in every sword strike and did not hold back at all. He wanted to defeat Lin Muyu so badly. Only by defeating this old enemy could he avenge himself. Lin Muyu was not much better. There were sword marks on her shoulder and armpit. If it were not for the divine seal engraved on her star's sword, she would not have been able to resist Qianfeng's attack. The cultivation of the first commander of the devil race was too high. The strength of the Master Devil power was far beyond the other elders of the devil race. Clang! Qianfeng suddenly pressed the star's sword with his sword, and the other edge of the star's sword pressed on Lin Muyu's shoulder, cutting into her skin. Die! The killing intent in Qianfeng's eyes was incomparably strong, and his whole person seemed to have fallen into the devil. Lin Muyu held the sword in her right hand, and suddenly stretched out her left hand, and suddenly punched Qianfeng's cheek. Bang! The protective Gangqi was blown away, and Qianfeng could not help but spit out a mouthful of blood, and Lin Muyu felt a sharp pain in her shoulder. Qianfeng's sword qi had entered her body, and this kind of pain was really too unbearable. Raising her left arm forward, Lin Muyu's blood-stained face was full of pride, and she shouted in a low voice, "Icatosaurus, armor." A dragon's roar reverberated in the space, and the blood-red scales turned into armor inch by inch, blessing Lin Muyu's body. Suddenly, her whole body seemed to be bathed in sweet dew. The Icatosaurus and her strength were getting more and more compatible, so much so that it could heal injuries and enhance her strength. It was also because of the Icatosaurus that Lin Muyu could compete with Qianfeng, who had at least the strength of an ultimate god. Ha! With a shout, Fushi's divine power and imperial combat flame were infused into the long sword, and Lin Muyu brazenly slashed down with her sword. Ha! Qianfeng was stunned. Feeling that the power of Lin Muyu's sword was far stronger than before, he hurriedly defended himself. However, the moment the 2 swords collided, Qianfeng immediately spat out a mouthful of blood. Lin Muyu's Fushi divine power was too strong. Poof! With a spurt of power, Qianfeng's body flew out like a fallen leaf. Save the marshal! In the distance, Lian Shao roared loudly. Suddenly, a large group of armor demons and high-level demons rushed over. Lin Muyu's battle robe and face were covered in blood, some of it was from humans, and some of it was from demons. At that moment, his handsome face was a little twisted, and even a little ferocious. With a roar, he swept out his long sword, and the 7 luminaries' celestial sword pierced through dozens of armor demons and high-level demons. Hum! A dull sound came from the sky, and a huge creature fell into the battle formation of the demons. It was a flying snake with dragon crystals all over its body. Qin Yin had single-handedly killed a flying snake. Chapter 604. Ka. The star's sword cut the armor demon's body into pieces. Lin Muyu spun in the battle formation, like a flaming iron lotus strangling the crowd. At this moment, there was only killing in Lin Muyu's eyes. There was no other color. He had even forgotten his own existence. His Yi was chaotic and chaotic, only the rising flame of revenge. What's wrong with me? Lin Muyu couldn't help asking himself as his body spun and killed. But blood? He seemed to be very thirsty for the blood of the Devil Clan. He couldn't hold back the killing intent in his heart. Qin Yin came from behind and suddenly grabbed Lin Muyu's arm. Get out of my way! Lin Muyu reflexively slashed backward with his sword. Qin Yin was caught off guard and used the celestial dragon crystal to block, but it was too late. Blood bloomed on her arm. The star's sword was too sharp. What's wrong with you? Qin Yin was stunned and looked straight at Lin Muyu. The young man in front of her was no longer the Lin Muyu from before. His expression was very distorted, and there was only violence and killing in his eyes. His whole body was covered in blood. Moreover, he didn't have half of Lin Muyu's aura. It was as if he was a tool used to killing. Don't scare me. Qin Yin stood there helplessly, tears swirling in her eyes. This war had forced Lin Muyu into this state. How could Qin Yin not feel distressed? She knew that Lin Muyu was not obsessed with fame and status. He only participated in this war for himself and for the promise he made to the former Emperor Qin Jin. What happened to me? Lin Muyu's Yi was a sea of blood. His figure stood majestically above the Yi, looking at the endless sea of blood. Layers of murderous intent surged in his heart. The endless rage made it difficult for him to control. Even though he knew that he had hurt Qin Yin, it was still difficult to calm the murderous intent in his heart. It was as if there was a demon residing in the depths of his soul. Stay away from me, Xiao Yin. With a low roar, he turned around and rushed into the devil race's camp like a wild beast. He had to kill. Only the blood of the devil race could calm his mind. Lord Commander, what's going on? Situ Shui asked in astonishment. I don't know, Qin Yin shook her head. Looking from afar, she saw a bloody storm suddenly set off in the crowd of armor demons. It was Lin Muyu's berserk sword storm. Perhaps only he could create such a purgatory on Earth on the battlefield. However, the high-level devil race shot arrows one after another, and the armor demons threw their weapons one after another. They were all hurting Lin Muyu. No matter how strong he was, he could not control the heavy wheel of war by himself. Kill! Qin Yin turned over and mounted the horse. The nation's suppressing sword in her hand was surrounded by the dragon crystal. She led Situ Sin, Situ Shui, Fengxi, Luo Exin, and the others to fight with all their might. If they wanted to defeat the devil race, they could only fight with their lives. In the blink of an eye, it was already night. The huge pits of the magic crystal cannons on the battlefield were very frightening. Apart from the cannons, there were many corpses, both of the devil race and of humans. Lin Muyu knelt in a cannon pit, surrounded by densely packed corpses of armor demons. He was seriously injured. His chest was even directly penetrated by an arrow, and there were small wounds all over his body. Catasaurus sat next to its master, swaying its huge head and gently rubbing its master's arm, as if it was comforting its master. What's wrong with me? Lin Muyu took a deep breath. His Yi was no longer the same as before. Instead, it was shrouded by a blood-red cloud, and the original color of his Yi could no longer be seen. It was as if this blood cloud was hiding a devil. Once it started killing, Lin Muyu would fall into a state of falling into the devil's path. The star's sword was stained with blood. He really did not know how many devil race he had killed. Rustle, rustle. At the edge of the pit, a pair of bloody boots stepped on the blood-soaked soil, and the blood-stained female empress's battle robe swayed gently. Lin Muyu raised his head, and his mind was in a daze. Xiao Yin. Qin Yin saw that he was fine, and 2 lines of tears fell down. She jumped into Lin Muyu's arms and cried, "You almost scared me to death, you almost scared me to death." Lin Muyu gently stroked her shoulder and said guiltily, "I'm sorry, I don't know what's wrong with me. It's as if I was possessed." "Well, it's good that you are fine now." Behind him, Sidi Shui walked over with a blood-stained sword and said respectfully, "Commander, Qian Feng has ordered to retreat. We have won a Pyrrhic victory in this battle." "Good." Lin Muyu slowly stood up with the help of Qin Yin, but saw a shocking sword wound on Qin Yin's shoulder. He could not help but say, "Xiao Yin, you are injured, this is?" Sidu Shui said, "Sir, this is your wound." Lin Muyu felt a pain in his heart. "I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm like this. It's okay." Qin Yin smiled sweetly. "It's just a small wound. Let's go back to camp. You have to recuperate quickly." When Lin Muyu was helped back to the camp, Chu Yao was so scared that she almost cried. She had never seen Lin Muyu suffer such a serious injury. There was not a single part of his body that was unharmed, and his face was full of scars. Fortunately, his muscles, bones, and skin were very tough, and he had a strong recovery rate. Furthermore, his saint body would not leave any scars. Otherwise, he would be considered disfigured. The next morning, in the human camp, Lin Muyu sat on the commander's seat with his body covered in bandages. This was the first time he sat in the commander's seat in front of so many people, and Qin Yin had acquiesced. "Is Commander Yu's injury all right?" Su Muyun asked with concern. "I'm fine. Thank you for your concern, Your Highness." Lin Muyu smiled. On the other hand, Su Muyun coughed violently a few times. His face was extremely pale, and his body was very weak. Lin Muyu could not help but ask, "Duke Yun, is your body all right?" Su Muyun shook his head. "I'm fine. I just caught a cold." At the side, Chu Yao said, "Duke Yun's condition is very serious. This subordinate suggests that Duke Yun should take the carriage back to Five Valleys City to recuperate. Otherwise, I'm afraid the consequences will be unpredictable. The war is urgent. As a subject of the Empire, how can I leave?" Su Muyun waved his hand. "I'm fine. Don't worry. If the demons don't retreat, I won't leave." Qin Yin worriedly said, "Grandfather, but your body." "I'm fine. I'm really fine." Su Muyun smiled. Yesterday's battle was very fruitful. The demons were defeated and retreated. I think Qianfeng has less than half of his troops left. Lin Muyu asked, "How are our losses?" Sidu Shui's expression was solemn. "Sir, there are only 25,000 people left in the Longdan army camp. The other legions suffered even more. The Godmight Battalion has less than 4,000 people left, and the Steel Blade Army has less than 10,000 people. Now, we can use less than 150,000 people. Most of them are new recruits from the Cloud Province and the Steel Wall. Our combat power is worrying. What about the demons?" "We cleaned up the battlefield early in the morning. We found 50,000 armored demons' corpses and more than 4,000 high-level demons' corpses. Many of them were directly destroyed by the magic crystal cannons. Preliminary estimates show that Qianfeng can use less than 30,000 armor demons and less than 5,000 high-level demons. The Wing Tribe's combat power is average, so we don't need to count them. How many weapons and magic crystal cannons do we have left?" "There are 39 magic crystal cannons and more than 800 cannonballs." However, Sidu Shui's expression darkened. In the battle on the Dao River yesterday, Wei Chou and the Navy's warships annihilated 6 flying snakes. Of the Navy's 64 warships, only 8 are left. General Wei Chou is seriously injured and is recuperating in the barracks. "Wei Chou is seriously injured?" "Yes, sir." "Accompany me to see him later." "Yes." Lin Muyu looked at everyone and said, "Are there any changes in the battle?" Zhen Yifan said, "Xiang Yu is defending the 100 Ridge City. Tang Lan's reinforcements are on the way. Also, there is news from the Heavens Pivot Province. The local government said that a human army is entering the Heaven's Pivot province from the Cloud Ridge. They are attacking wantonly and have already seized 6 cities in the Heaven's Pivot province. Human army? What's their background? It's the demon race's advance party. If I'm not wrong. Zheng Yifan frowned. Qianfeng is delaying us here while sending his puppet army to attack the Heaven's Pivot province. If nothing unexpected happens, the demon race's advance party has already surrounded Divine Shadow City. Most of the troops stationed in Divine Shadow City have been transferred to the front lines. Qianfeng's wishful thinking is to use this battle to exchange for a rich and populous Heaven's Pivot province. Luo Exin laughed coldly and said, "The vanguard army is a bunch of cowards. There's nothing to be afraid of. As long as you give me an army of 20,000, I can take back Divine Shadow City from their hands." "Don't act rashly," Lin Muyu said. "No one knows the true strength of the demon race. Perhaps Qianfeng doesn't have any troops left, but as long as there are 30 to 50,000 armored demons in the Heaven's Pivot province, I'm afraid that even 100,000 of our troops will be sent to their deaths. Unless Big Brother Feng's main force is transferred back, the Empire's army won't be able to fight the demon race head-on." "Then what do we do now?" Su Muyun asked. Lin Muyu respectfully said, "Fortify the walls and clear the fields. Clean up the battlefield, bury and burn all the corpses so that the demon race loses their food supply. It won't be long before Qianfeng retreats. If Qianfeng retreats, it means that the demon race's troops have been completely wiped out. We can then regroup and kill our way out of the steel walls and recover the Winter and Tongtian provinces. If Qianfeng doesn't retreat, it means that the demon race's vitality hasn't been greatly damaged. We still need to continue to deal with them." As she said this, Lin Muyu looked at Sidu San and said, "General Sun, order all the people in the Longdan army camp who can still fight to be stationed at the front lines. Have the magic crystal cannons on standby." "Yes, Commander." Lin Muyu stood up. Qin Yin floated over to support her and said, "Let me accompany you to see General Wei Chou? You go see him personally. I'm afraid you'll scare that kid." "Hee, I won't." Chapter 605. Wei Chou's tent. When Lin Muyu and Qin Yin walked into the tent together, Wei Chou was startled as expected. Ignoring Chu Yao, who was helping him change his dressing, he got off the bed and knelt on the ground with his bare feet. "General Wei Chou greets Your Highness. Long live Your Highness." "Greetings, Commander." "Get up, there's no need to stand on ceremony." Qin Yin raised her hand with a smile and supported Wei Chou to stand up through the air with her sacred power. "How are your injuries?" Lin Muyu stepped forward and asked. Wei Chou sat back on the bed and smiled awkwardly. "2 of my ribs were broken by the flying snake's poisonous needles and pierced into my lungs. Fortunately, Great Deacon Chu Yao saved me in time, otherwise this subordinate would have lost his life." "Looks like Big Sister Chu Yao saved more than my life." Lin Muyu laughed. Wei Chou also laughed heartily. On the battlefield yesterday, there were at least more than 10 flying snakes, over 100,000 armored demons, and 10,000 high-level Nephilim troops. In addition to the Wing tribe and other Nephilim troops, Wei Chou naturally understood how cruel the battlefield was. He was extremely gratified to see Lin Muyu come back alive. And Lin Muyu also knew the danger of the naval warships bombarding the Nephilim camp. On one hand, they had to bear the direct attack of the flying snakes, and on the other hand, they had to resist the attack of the underwater Sandman army. To be honest, the Imperial Navy was almost completely annihilated in the battle yesterday. The fact that Wei Chou could come back alive was simply a great gift to the Longdan army camp. Lin Muyu sat down with Qin Yin's help and said, "Your ribs are injured. You need to drink more bone soup. Let the Spirit Fire Division make you some horse bone soup. The number of war horses that died in the battle yesterday is definitely not small." Wei Chou smiled. "I'm afraid after this battle, we will have to ask Princess Shi for good horses from the Endless Forest again." "Commander, our Longdan army camp claimed to have 70,000 soldiers, but now there are less than 30,000 left. This general's heart aches. I know." Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, "The brothers who died in the battle are the Empire's martyrs. Their families will be well compensated. Don't worry. Qin Yin also said, once this war ends, new soldiers will be recruited from all places. Don't worry, Longdan Army Camp will be recruited. Recruits will be given priority to Longdan Army Camp to Army Camp Longdan Army Camp. This general represents the Courage Dragon Battalion in thanking your highness. Wei Qiu bowed. Chu Yao smiled from the side and said, since everyone is here, I'll instruct the Spirit Fire Division to cook early. How about we eat lunch here today? All right. Qin Yin nodded happily. Wei Qiu said, Commander, do you think the demons will take advantage of the night to launch a sneak attack? They won't. Lin Muyu shook her head. Our fortifications are already very complete. The camp is surrounded by dozens of antlers and 3 layers of walls. The ballistae, arrow boxes, and magic crystal cannons are not to be trifled with. Qianfeng won't be so foolish as to court death. Yes, that's good. At this moment, a spatial energy rippled out from the side of the tent. What's that? Qin Yin looked there in surprise. She saw a sharp claw piercing through the laws of space, forcefully widening the crack. From the scales on the claw, it could be seen that it was a Catasaurus. Catasaurus was a holy dragon-type spirit beast, so it could not be measured by the standards of ordinary spirit beasts. Lin Muyu had always adopted a free-range strategy for Acatosaurus, so what Acatosaurus was doing in the different space and which plane it was in, he had no idea at all. But looking at the situation, Acatosaurus had long been self-sufficient. Not long after, Acatosaurus's big head drilled out of the spatial crack. After a while, it finally drilled out. After landing on the ground, it wagged its tail and came to Lin Muyu's side. When Lin Muyu gently stroked its head, she also found that Acatosaurus's injuries from yesterday's battle had actually healed more than half. The original scales on the wound between its neck had fallen off, but now there were new very tender scales. Oh, Acatosaurus cried out to Lin Muyu and Qin Yin, then made a vomiting motion. Soon after, with a pa sound, it vomited a bone about 30 centimeters long, which looked like a piece of animal bone. Haha. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. Wei Qiu, it seems that Acatosaurus knows that your ribs are broken, so it found a bone from another space to cook bone soup for you. You see, Acatosaurus is so considerate. Wei Qiu helplessly looked at the bone full of mucus and said, unfortunately, I don't have anything to entertain Acatosaurus. I can't feed him a leg, so please help me convey my gratitude. Lin Muyu nodded. Well, no problem. At this time, Chu Yao walked up and used a white cloth to wipe the bone that Acatosaurus brought. Her palm was enshrouded with fighting energy. Suddenly she was stunned and said, the spiritual power on this bone is so strong, and the bone content is also quite high. It seems that Acatosaurus did not make a mistake. This bone can really be used as a supplement for Wei Qiu. Wei Qiu didn't know whether to laugh or cry. You really want to cook this bone? Of course. Chu Yao said with a smile, not only you also needs to drink it. Yesterday he was almost pierced through the chest by an arrow. His injury is not lighter than yours. Well then, Lin Muyu said, I don't know what kind of beast this bone came from. Can it be eaten? Is it poisonous? Chu Yao laughed. Don't worry, I am the great deacon of the spiritual medicine department. How can I not see whether it is poisonous or not? I will go and inform the spiritual fire department. Just wait a moment. With that, Chu Yao walked out lightly. Qin Yin pursed her red lips and said with a smile, it's good that Sister Chu Yao is here. Yes, it's good. Lin Muyu thought back to the days when she was with Chu Yao in Silver Fir City. This sister was indeed very attentive and gentle. If she had not met Tang Xiaoxi and Qin Yin, she might really have married Chu Yao. In any case, being in a foreign world was so lonely. When he thought of this, he thought of Tang Xiaoxi. He didn't know how she was doing in Lanyan City. Tang Lu's disloyalty was obvious. First, he framed him, and then he stationed his troops without moving. He really wasn't a good person. We are currently in a stalemate with the Qianfeng army. This is not a good thing. Why do you say that? Qin Yin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu took a sip of the tea that the guard handed over and said, Tang Lu has 300,000 troops and has been watching from the side of the Seven Seas. In the entire country, Tang Lu has the strongest troops. Even Big Brother Feng cannot compare. Once we defeat the demon race and Qian Feng retreats, Tang Lu may feel that the opportunity is gone and may not wait to make a move. Right now is the most dangerous time. Big Brother Yu is saying that Tang Lu may make a move now? Yes, if I were Tang Lu, I would choose to act now, and not wait until we defeat the devil race and send our army to the north. At that time he would have no chance of winning. After all, the majority of those 300,000 elite soldiers are new recruits, and their battle strength is less than a third of the veterans. Our 100,000 people would be able to defeat them. That's right. I will immediately write a letter and order Luo Yu to impose martial law in the city. No need. Lin Muyu smiled slightly and looked at Qin Yin's beautiful face that was filled with worry. He is proficient in both the pen and the sword and has a meticulous mind. He and Wei Chou are both generals that I can rely on. He will definitely be able to smell the scent of Tang Lu's disloyalty. Besides, there is still Shao Shi's 200,000 demon race troops guarding the western suburbs. Even if Tang Lu wants to attack Lanyan City, it will be impossible in less than a month. And within a month, we will definitely be able to end the war here and return to the North Ridge province. At that time, it will be the time of Tang Lu's death. Perhaps there is no need to wait until that time. Qin Yin said faintly. Oh, what do you mean? I'm sorry, Big Brother Yu. Actually, a few days ago, I ordered General Feng to take my imperial edict and go to Seven Seas City to take over Tang Lu's army. Lin Muyu was startled. Shao Shi was unable to take the military power from Tang Lu's hands. I'm afraid that Big Brother Feng may not succeed, right? No. Qin Yin shook her head. Biting her red lips, she said, I gave Feng Jixing 2 secret orders. One of them is to kill Tang Lu. What Shao Shi can't bear to do, Feng Jixing can. So that's how it is. Lin Muyu felt relieved. Tang Lu's rebellious intentions are clear. His death is not to be regretted. Without him, the generals of Seven Seas Province's army will be like a group of dragons without a leader. It won't be so difficult for Big Brother Feng to subdue them. And, in the blink of an eye, night fell. Under the starry sky, a group of people passed through the small path of Turtle Valley and went straight to 100 Ridge City. At the front of the group, the old General Tang Lan held the reins tightly. He spurred his horse forward. His white beard fluttered in the wind. The golden cloak behind him fluttered in the wind. Behind him was a group of seasoned veterans. Many of them were already 60 years old. After the troops reached the city, an old general spurred his horse forward. He came to the city and shouted, Seven Seas King, Tang Lan, lead the army as reinforcements. Brothers on the city wall, please open the city gate and let us in. The general guarding the city wall squinted his eyes for a long time. He said, Seven Seas King, please wait for a moment. This subordinate will go and inform Commander Jianghu. All right, please hurry up. The wind outside is cold. His Highness's body can't take it. An hour later, the city gate of 100 Ridge City slowly opened. Torches were gathered. Jianghu carried the bloodthirsty spear and spurred his horse out of the city with a group of generals. He came to Tang Lan's horse, dismounted, and knelt down. He cupped his fists and said, Jianghu greets your highness. Tang Lan smiled. Marquis Pingnan, please rise. Marquis Pingnan is wise and brave. Capturing 100 Ridge City has made a great contribution to the empire. Congratulations. There's no need for your highness to praise me like this. I'm just following orders. This is all her highness's intention. Let's enter the city. Yes. Jianghu mounted his horse and entered the city side by side with Tang Lan. He said, Her Highness Yin has given a secret order. She wants me to send troops to attack Sword Pavilion on the second day after your Highness Seven Seas King sends reinforcements to 100 Ridge City and capture Qin Yi, the traitor of the empire. Therefore, I will lead 50,000 troops and leave 100 Ridge City tomorrow. The capital of Iha Nation will be left to your Highness to guard. You're leaving too? Tang Lan looked at Xiangyu with disappointment in her eyes. How could Xiangyu not know what Tang Lan meant? Both of them were smart people. Xiangyu also understood that once his 50,000 soldiers left the city, Tang Lan's 10,000 soldiers would not be able to hold down the thousands of Iha Nation's soldiers who had defected, let alone guard the city. Moreover, Long Qianlin's army could arrive at any time. Guarding the city was equivalent to waiting for death. Chapter 606. The night of early spring was chilly. As the night breeze blew, the big flag in front of the tent fluttered. Under the light of the fire, the golden-purple flowers on the flag looked so beautiful. Inside the tent, Qin Yin was meditating. Clouds of golden light lingered around her body. Under the light, her ice skin and jade bones seemed to become transparent. Streams of divine power were running in her body. Phew! After one round of breathing, Qin Yin slowly breathed a sigh of relief. She opened her eyes, and a golden light flashed across her eyes. That was the power of the divine power. Qin Yin clenched her fists gently and couldn't help laughing. The power of the celestial dragon crystal seemed to be more powerful. Since the divine personality was formed in her body, her cultivation had been improving at a very fast speed. In a short time, she had officially stepped into the first heaven of the divine state. The omnipresent divine power in her body had proved everything. Could it be that the divine personality was really that powerful? All of a sudden, Qin Yin suddenly felt a powerful force slowly cruising in the distance. It was a force that was different from that of human cultivators. It was full of violence and evil. Someone was coming, and he was just a few miles away from the camp of the Empire. Bang! Grabbing the heaven-suppressing sword, Qin Yin spun up from the brocade seat and disappeared in the air. Only a light purple space crack was left in the air, which slowly disappeared. It was the power of the void-breaking four-dimensional travel. The next moment, Qin Yin appeared in the mountains a few miles away from the camp. A figure flashed past in front of her. She immediately spread her 5 fingers, and the divine state realm covered the sky and earth. Suddenly, the sound of trees breaking could be heard. Like a huge force, Qin Yin's realm was full of the destructive power of the divine state. "Come out!" As she shouted, a rather ferocious laughter echoed in the forest. In a pile of rapidly withering shrubs, an old man in a gray robe stepped on the tip of a shrub. Around him were many purple-red demonic shadows. The demonic shadows whistled and danced, fluttering his gray robe. He laughed and said, "Empress Qin Yin actually has such a cultivation. How rare, the demon saint, right?" Qin Yin smiled faintly. She had heard about the legend of the demon saint. "You know me?" "No, I'm just guessing." Qin Yin said, "You don't have the domineering aura of the demon emperor in your power, but there's a different kind of evil in it. So, you're most likely the legendary Saint Master. Did you sneak into the Empire's camp at night to assassinate someone?" The demon saint smiled and shook his sleeves. The demon battle energy quickly rose up. He laughed loudly and said, "Since the person I want to assassinate has come to me, how should I thank you?" Qin Yin didn't say anything. She threw the heaven-suppressing sword and stabbed it into a rock at the side. She slowly opened her jade-like hands. Suddenly, heaven dragon crystals condensed around her. She stepped in the void and her clothes fluttered. The golden light of the heaven dragon crystals shone on her beautiful face. She was really as beautiful as a goddess, like a snow lotus that couldn't be touched. "You're courting death." The demon saint sneered, "Today, I will let you see the divine art of the 5 demons combination." Amidst the buzzing sound, the demonic shadows around the demon saint flew around and let out evil roars. Suddenly, the surrounding space seemed to be distorted, and the rocks cracked. The powerful force field contended with Qin Yin's divine state territory, and the sound of cracking reverberated endlessly. Qin Yin's bright eyes stared at the saint sovereign. She did not move, only increasing the strength of her divine power to strengthen the suppressive force of her domain. The two of them were locked in a stalemate. Finally, with a bang, The ground beneath their feet suddenly collapsed under the pressure of the suppressive force, sinking almost 10 meters deep. The original forest had already become a huge basin. Dust flew up, and the aftershocks from the collapse of the ground were endless. The surrounding mountains seemed to be shaking in response. Buzz! A heaven dragon crystal pierced through the dust and went straight for the demon saint's chest. The Holy Master roared and activated the 5 demons combination technique. Numerous demonic shadows spun and pounced on the dragon crystal. A strong force in the air shook the celestial dragon crystal. Bang! With a loud sound, the demon saint was knocked back dozens of meters. His arms were numb, and the 5 demons combination in his body dissipated by nearly 30%. However, Qin Yin's heaven dragon crystal was still at ease. She raised her hand, and a heaven dragon crystal pierced through the clouds and fell heavily. This attack was like a catastrophe. The heaven dragon crystal with a radius of 100 meters fell from the sky, and the demon saint couldn't dodge it. How could this be? The demon saint was stunned. According to his understanding, Qin Yin couldn't be this strong, because the demon saint was also a powerhouse at the first heaven of the divine state. However, he had a natural fear of Qin Yin's divine power. In the face of the heaven dragon crystal, the demon saint couldn't use his divine power at all. Could there be such a master-subordinate relationship between powers? Many demonic shadows flew around his arms, and the demon saint was surrounded by a dozen meters of blood-red grandmaster devil power. He raised his palms in a shocking manner and shouted, "Impossible!" The strongest form of the 5 demons combination went head-on against Qin Yin's heaven dragon crystal. Bang! The ground suddenly cracked open, and the demon saint spat out a mouthful of blood as he retreated. Seeing that the heaven dragon crystal was about to fall, he hurriedly waved his palms behind him. Suddenly, a crack in the space opened up, and he jumped into it, shattering the void. Boom! The ground shook violently. The heaven dragon crystal that Qin Yin launched with 90% of her power directly blasted a deep hole in the ground. It was at least 100 meters deep, and the demon saint was already seriously injured. He teleported a few miles away. Qin Yin slowly breathed a sigh of relief. In her Yi, the law of light's overgod divine spark was emitting a gentle and holy light, rapidly replenishing the divine power she had lost. The sage master probably did not know why he had lost. He had lost because of the grade of his divine spark. Humans pursued the heavenly Tao, but the heavenly Tao was vague, and how many people could understand it? The Godhead was the crystallization of the essence of human cultivation between heaven and earth and the universe. It was known as the treasure of the 3 realms. Almost every Godhead was condensed through countless hardships, and the Godhead was divided into 5 grades. The 5th grade, which was also the lowest grade of divine spark, was known as the mortal spark. It was the divine spark formed by the cultivators of the mortal realm. It was not difficult to obtain the mortal spark. As long as one was good at cultivating and persevering, it would be possible. The mortal spark was also known as the wild spark, which was why it was looked down upon by the gods of the heaven realm. Qin Han, Luolan, the demon emperor, and the saint master all possessed the 5th grade mortal spark. The 4th grade was the heavenly Tao personality. After a cultivator comprehended the laws of the heavenly Tao, they condensed the Godhead, which was slightly more powerful than the mortal personality. The 3rd grade was the immortal personality. It used the God-Emperor personality of the heaven realm as the source of power, and after thousands of years of refinement, it was more powerful than the heavenly Tao personality. The 2nd grade was the overgod Godhead. It was the most powerful Godhead that governed the laws of all elements. The destiny overgod Godhead that Qin Yin had awakened was the light element sovereign Godhead. There was only one overgod Godhead in the world. The 1st grade was the sovereign personality. It was the sovereign personality. There were a total of 3 sovereign personalities in the universe. It was said that one of them was in the EC of the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Otherwise, he would not have the power to easily kill an emperor god. However, this was only a legend. As for whether the Godhead that the 7 luminaries demon emperor possessed was the sovereign personality, no one knew. In this sneak attack, the demon saint had calculated that Qin Yin had entered the god state. However, he did not expect that the godhead that Qin Yin possessed was the second grade. This was the reason why the demon saint was defeated. The divine power needed to break through the void was very vast. Moreover, every time she traveled through space, she needed the divine power to protect her body from being corroded by the sand of time. Therefore, even the Master God personality could not break through the void twice in a short period of time. Even though Qin Yin sensed the direction of the demon saint, she did not kill him. This might put her in a difficult situation. One demon saint was hard enough to deal with. If the demon emperor came, she was afraid that she would not be a match for him. At this time, torches were lit in the direction of the empire's camp. It seemed that everyone had noticed the commotion here. In fact, it was hard not to notice. The battle between Qin Yin and the demon saint had almost razed the entire forest to the ground. The shock caused by the battle was like an earthquake to the empire's army nearby. Moreover, the scene of the celestial dragon crystal falling from the sky was too eye-catching. It was like an oracle. As long as one was not blind, they could see it from afar. Qin Yin frowned. It was time to leave. However, the divine power in her body was still recovering. It would take a few more minutes before she could break through the void again. At this time, a person carrying a long sword dashed out of the forest. Astral power flickered under her feet. It was Lin Muyu. In this kind of terrain, he arrived faster than anyone else. Leaping over the grass, Lin Muyu's feet were surrounded by the emperor's fighting flame. He had already arrived in front of Qin Yin. He could not help but exclaim, "Xiao Yin, it really is you. Who was that just now?" Lin Muyu's spiritual pulse technique was also very sensitive. It was just that he could not make it in time. Qin Yin did not know how to explain. She could only tell the truth. It was the Demon Saint Master. The Demon Saint Master? Lin Muyu frowned. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine." "Where is the Demon Saint Master?" "He got injured and ran away." "You injured him?" "Yes." Lin Muyu walked forward and raised her palm. The calabash flower bloomed with the power of the first light of dawn. A golden light illuminated the surroundings. In front of them was the huge pit created by the celestial dragon crystal. Lin Muyu was shocked. He said, "Xiao Yin, is this your masterpiece?" "Yes." Qin Yin could not deny it even if she wanted to. "Then why are you still standing here like a fool?" Lin Muyu grabbed her little hand. "Let's go. Do you want everyone in the empire to know that you have cultivated to the divine state?" "Why not?" You're right." Lin Muyu had always thought that people should keep a low profile. However, after being asked by Qin Yin, she was a little dumbfounded. In fact, with Qin Yin's identity and status, if she announced to the world that she had stepped into the divine state and was a real god, she might be able to win the hearts of the world. Chapter 607. Another mouthful of blood splattered on the red carpet. The sacred master's expression was extremely ugly as he shakily sat down on a chair with the help of his guards. The demon king sat quietly at the side and waited for the sacred master to drink a mouthful of nourishing soup before saying, "Sacred master, who injured you so badly? Could it be that old fellow Qin Han is already here?" "It's not Qin Han, it's Qin Yin." The sacred master's eyes were filled with intense killing intent. "Qin Yin?" The demon king frowned and said in disbelief, "How is this possible? Qin Yin is just a little girl who has cultivated for 20 years. With the sacred master's ability, even Ouyang Yen, the fiery dance divine monarch, would not be able to injure you, let alone a mere Qin Yin." "Your Majesty." The sacred master's face was pale as he said, "When I was fighting against Qin Yin, this subordinate's divine power actually seemed to naturally submit to Qin Yin's divine power. This caused this subordinate to only be able to use half of his cultivation. In addition, the celestial dragon crystal that Qin Yin condensed is really powerful. The celestial dragon crystal contains a vast amount of saint energy. This saint energy can be said to be the natural nemesis of the 5 demons combination. You're saying that your divine power has a natural submissive feeling in Qin Yin's hands? Yes. Could it be? The Demon King's body trembled as his face instantly turned pale. Could it be that the godhead that Qin Yin possesses is the legendary heavenly Tao godhead? How is this possible? She is just a little girl who is still wet behind the ears. How could she understand the laws of heaven and earth? Could it be the third-grade caste immortal godhead that old fellow Qin Han found in the heaven realm? Impossible. The sacred sovereign frowned and said, although Qin Han, that old bastard, had indeed ascended to the heaven realm once, the caste immortal lattice is extremely precious. All the god kings and god emperors in the heaven realm yearned for it, but Qin Han was not a saint. If he had obtained the caste immortal lattice, he would have cultivated it himself. Why would he leave it to Qin Yin after thousands of years? The Demon King took a deep breath and said, if that's really the case, then it's too terrifying. It's impossible for Qin Yin to condense the heavenly Tao fate or the forged immortal fate. So, it can only be the overgod fate. Sovereign spark? The sacred master was astonished. That's a god emperor spark that was destined to be born, and there are only 10 or so sovereign sparks in the universe. How could this Qin Yin possibly have formed a sovereign spark? She was born by destiny. The Nephilim king clenched his fist. If this little girl's luck is really extraordinary, if that's the case, then we have to get rid of Qin Yin. If Qin Yin doesn't die, it'll be difficult for us to seize this continent. Qin Yin must die. Sacred Master, do you have any news about Yaoji? Yaoji is thousands of miles away. The Sacred Master nodded and said, Your Majesty, today's battle is unfavorable for us. Lin Muyu's magic crystal cannons are very powerful. More than half of the demon race's army has been destroyed. If we continue to fight, I'm afraid that we will perish together with the human empire. In this subordinate's opinion, it's better to retreat. The Nephilim king's dark eyes were filled with hatred. He said, but we must kill Qin Yin. As long as Qin Yin is dead, we will have won a great victory after we leave the Tongtian Gorge. Yes, this subordinate will arrange it. Sacred Master, rest early. Tomorrow morning, let's see what Marshal Qianfeng has arranged. The next day, there was no movement from the demon race. They didn't attack or retreat, and Lin Muyu could only set up a defensive position and confront Qianfeng. On the 22nd of February, in the western suburbs of Lanyan City, in a camp of the demon race, a letter was sent to Tang Xiaoxi. Tang Xiaoxi looked at the letter in her hand, and her beautiful face was full of horror. Shao Yin ordered grandfather to lead 10,000 soldiers to reinforce Bailing City? There are at least 100,000 Iha Kingdom soldiers to the south of Bailing City. Tang Zhen, who had grown a long beard, cupped his fists and said, It seems that Her Highness is really determined to get the Lingnan territory. Otherwise, she wouldn't have sent His Highness the Seven Seas King to guard Bailing City. Tang Xiaoxi shook her head. No, Tang Zhen, you still don't understand Shao Yin's intention. It's impossible to defend Bailing City with just 10,000 soldiers. The Iha Kingdom has deep roots in Bailing City. How can they be subdued by just 10,000 soldiers? Moreover, Long Qianlin and Ding Shi will definitely send their army back to reinforce Bailing City. By then, Bailing City will be a dead city. Then what should we do? Isn't Duke Lan? Tang Zhen panicked when he heard this. After all, he used to be a general of the Tang family. Although he didn't agree with Tang Lan's way of keeping a low profile, he still didn't want to see Tang Lan die in vain. Tang Xiaoxi clenched her fists tightly as she crushed the letter and said, I don't care what Shao Yin thinks, but he's my grandfather. I can't just sit by and watch him die in battle in 100 Ridge City. He's my grandfather, at your command. Tang Zhen nodded. Gather 5,000 light cavalrymen and follow me to Bailing City through a shortcut. With our fastest speed, we might be able to reach Bailing City in 5 days. Yes, Your Highness. Tang Zhen nodded and said, Princess, Commander Feng Jixing is here. What's General Feng doing here? He has the Empress's edict, the Seven Seas King's handwritten letter, and a Tang sect order. He says that he's going to Seven Seas City to mobilize Tang Lu's army to Tsangnan province to defend against the enemy. I see. Let's go. Follow me to see Feng Jixing. Outside the camp, the spring breeze was gentle. Feng Jixing didn't bring many men with him. His face looked weathered and he must have stayed up late to travel. He cupped his fists and smiled. Feng Jixing pays his respects to Princess Shi. General Feng is too courteous. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and said, Is General Feng here for military power? Do you have the confidence to obtain military power? Feng Jixing answered honestly and smiled. But I'll do my best and not let you down. Good. You're Mu's brother. I'll lend you a hand. Tang Xiaoxi took out a Tang sect order from the space bag at her waist and threw it to Feng Jixing. Tang sect order? Feng Jixing was stunned. That's right. Tang Xiaoxi said, if you have 2 Tang sect orders, Tang Lu's courage to disobey the imperial edict will be reduced. Thank you, Princess Shi. No need to thank me. I have something to ask General Feng for help. What is it? Princess Shi, feel free to tell me. Tang Xiaoxi moved her jet black hair that was blown about by the cool breeze and said, Tang Lu is the last descendant of the Tang clan, and he's grandfather's last hope as well. So, Commander Feng, please spare Tang Lu's life no matter what, all right? I'll do my best. Do your best, Tang Xiaoxi sighed faintly. All right then. Do your best. She also knew that Tang Lu disobeyed the imperial edict. Just this alone was enough for him to die 100 times. Feng Jixing was decisive and resolute. If Tang Lu still refused to forgive him, Feng Jixing might not spare his life. Where are you going, Princess Shi? Feng Jixing asked again. To 100 Ridge City to see grandfather, Tang Xiaoxi said desolately. To 100 Ridge City? Feng Jixing frowned and said, 100 Ridge City is at war. I think it's better for Princess Shi not to go there. No, I have to go. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and bowed to Feng Jixing like a lady. Xiao Shi will take her leave. General Feng, please take care. Yes. In the 100 Ridge City, the Duke of Jiannan's mansion was brightly lit at night. At this moment, the mansion had become the temporary residence of the Seven Seas King, Tang Lan. There was an endless stream of people inside and outside the mansion, all busy with their own affairs. The majority of the people who came to the Duke of Jiannan's mansion were the officials and nobles in the city. Everyone knew that the Lingnan province had changed hands, and the 100 Ridge City had fallen into the hands of the empire. This also meant that the Iha nation had begun to decline. When the country was about to collapse, the most important thing was to find a backer as soon as possible, and Tang Lan was the perfect backer. Your Highness, the Prefecture Lord of 100 Ridge City, Zhou Xian, has just come and sent a gift worth about 500 Jining coins. I've placed it in the mansion's treasury. It's up to your Highness how to deal with it, the old General Tang Bai said respectfully. Yes. Tang Lan put down the scroll in her hand and looked at the oil lamp beside her. Has Xiang Yu's army left the city? Yes, the South Vanquishing Duke has already attacked the Sword Pavilion. How many people are left in the city? Your Highness, 100 Ridge City is a big city. There are 8 city gates in the east, south, west, and north. Each gate must be guarded by 200 people. In this way, we need 8,000 people to guard each gate. In addition, we also need people to patrol the streets. The Fire Sparrow division of the Iha nation is unreliable, and I need another 1,500 people to patrol. Therefore, the Duke's mansion is the least guarded, with only 500 soldiers. Tang Lan frowned and said, Only 500 people? Have the private armies of the nobles in the city been handed over? No, especially the Northern Qi mansion. Northern Qi's eagle, that old man, relied on his position as the head of the Tianshu family to order the Northern Qi mansion servants and guards to shut their doors. He didn't offer any gifts and even said that the Northern Qi mansion would still be loyal to the South Vanquishing Duke, Qin Yi, when Long Qianlin returns to 100 Ridge City. How presumptuous! Tang Lan said coldly. Tang Bai said, Your Highness, when the city was in turmoil last night, Northern Qi's retainer, Yang Fan, started a fight and killed 5 of his enemies on the street. He has been captured by the Fire Sparrow Division. How does your highness wish to deal with him? Killing in private is a capital crime. Tang Lon waved his hand. Then, what if that old man Northern Qi comes looking for trouble? Call back the 2,000 soldiers at the south gate. If the Northern Qi mansion dares to act rashly, kill them all. Yes, your subordinate understands. Tang Lon had been on the battlefield all his life. His personality was firm and brave, and he had never been threatened by others. Moreover, the Northern Qi mansion thought of itself as a noble family. This made Tang Lon even angrier. However, Tang Lon could not have imagined that this small action would bring him endless trouble. Chapter 608. Early in the morning, the head of the Northern Qi official, Yang Fan, was hung high on the city gate as punishment. To the side was a notice from Tang Lon. The laws of the empire were the same in Hundredling City. Those who killed without permission had to pay with their lives. Even if they used the heavenly book to kill, they had to pay with their lives. Clang! A heavy palm landed on the golden silkwood table. The nearly 60-year-old Northern Qi eagle's face was full of anger. He was a member of the Heavenly Book family in Iha Kingdom and the only person in Iha Kingdom who could write the Heavenly Book. With his cultivation of the second tier of the Heaven Realm, how could he endure such humiliation? With a face full of anger, he said in a low voice, "The Northern Qi Prefecture and the Empire are irreconcilable. Lin Muyu killed my son, Northern Qi Huan. Now, Tang Lon has gone too far and killed Yang Fan of the Northern Qi Prefecture. It is truly despicable." To the side, the eldest son, Northern Qi Ao, said, "Father, don't be angry. Tang Lon only has less than 10,000 soldiers in his hands. After dividing them among the 4 city gates, he will only have a few hundred people he can use. The Northern Qi Prefecture's private army has 2,000 people and hundreds of heavenly books. Do we need to be afraid of a mere Tang Lon? As long as you give the order, I will immediately lead the guards and the private army to the Jinan Prince's manor, kill Tang Lon, and chase these dogs of the Empire out of Hundredling City." As he spoke, the corners of Northern Qi's mouth twitched. "Father, the commander is trapped in the sword pavilion, but Marshal Long Qianlin is already on his way back. Once he receives the commander, he will certainly point his vanguard directly at Hundredling City. If at this time, the Northern Qi Prefecture can use the power of the prefecture to take Hundredling City and offer it to the commander, then the Northern Qi Prefecture can be said to be the most meritorious service in Iha Kingdom. What do you think, father?" "Aoer, you still haven't thought deeply enough." The Northern Qi eagle smiled coldly. "Tang Lon, that old thing, why do we need to do it ourselves to finish him off? We only need to move our mouths and spend Jinin coins to have Tang Lon deliver his own head to the city gate tower." "Oh? What does father plan to do?" "We only need to do this." At noon, a large group of Iha country civilians surrounded the Prince of Jinan's mansion. Everyone's face was filled with righteous indignation. They waved their fists and loudly cursed the soldiers who were holding shields and looking flustered in front of the mansion's gate. At the same time, they wrote a line of words in red ink with a long white cloth. "The Empire's dogs have no conscience, and I will live and die with Iha country." Not only that, these thousands of people even waved their arms and shouted in unison, demanding an explanation from Tang Lon. Otherwise, they would continue to cause trouble and surround the prince consort's residence, leaving Tang Lon unable to advance or retreat. It wasn't until the afternoon that the gates of the palace finally opened. Tang Lon walked out wearing a brocade robe with a 3-star purple flower insignia on his neck. He stared coldly at the people causing trouble outside the palace and said, "All of you, quiet down. Tell me, what do you want?" In the crowd, an old man walked out and said with a trembling voice, "This old man greets your highness, the 7 Seas monarch. You don't have to be so courteous. Tell me." The old man nodded and said, "The Iha nation has always promoted equality and benevolence. But now that the Empire has taken over our city and killed our comrades, the cruelty of the Empire's soldiers has angered both men and gods. Your Highness, 7 Sea King, you have killed Yang Fan and many of the people of the Iha nation. Everyone says that Empress Qin Yin is benevolent, but now we don't see any benevolence. How are you different from beasts for committing such atrocities? Yang Fan killed people privately, so he deserved to die, Tang Lan said coldly. This is the territory of Iha country, so we should follow the laws of Iha country. Killing people with the heavenly book is not against the law. How dare you? Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. Bailing City has been the Empire's territory for thousands of years, so we should follow the Empire's laws. A life for a life, there's no need to say anything more. The old man gritted his teeth. Your Highness, you can't distinguish between right and wrong. It's really disappointing. We are all free people of Iha country, and we are definitely not willing to be slaves of the Empire. Since your Highness is stubborn, we can only fight to the death. You! Tang Lan's eyes turned cold. He spread his fingers and said, Tang Bai, form an offensive formation and seal off the entrance of the imperial residence. Kill anyone who dares to block the entrance. Tang Bai led a group of Tang clan soldiers and rushed forward, killing several people directly. Blood directly dyed the stairs of the imperial residence red. Many people were already scared out of their wits when they saw the corpses. However, there were a few people in the crowd who picked up bricks and smashed them randomly at the Tang clan soldiers. Tang Bai was instantly enraged. He raised his steel blade and said, Kill these unruly people. Yes. Everyone started a massacre. Arrows were shot randomly, and in the blink of an eye, a large number of troublemakers were killed. The eyes of the soldiers were also bloodshot. They raised their weapons and rushed out of the imperial residence, and even killed people into the streets. Murder! Murder! The Empire's dogs are going to massacre the city. Some people shouted. At this time, it was afternoon business time in the 100 Ridge City. Countless merchants and pedestrians on the streets were so scared that their faces turned pale. Especially when they saw the Tang clan soldiers killing people in the distance, they were scared out of their wits and ran away. In the blink of an eye, the streets were already in chaos. For an entire afternoon, the news spread through the streets and alleys of the city. No one knew who spread the news that Tang Lan was going to massacre the city, but almost the millions of people in the 100 Ridge City knew that Tang Lan was going to wield the butcher's knife. When night fell, the city gates were attacked again and again. Countless citizens requested to leave the city. Under the situation where the guards refused to open the gates, many mercenaries and warriors of the House of Chivalry chose to attack. This night was destined to be a night of turmoil. The next morning, Tang Lan didn't sleep at all. His hair was completely white. Your Highness, Tang Bai's expression was pale as he said, last night, the guards at the south gate lost more than 300 people. The north gate lost even more. They lost nearly 1,000 people. We don't even know who killed them. How sad. As soldiers of the Empire, we should have died on the battlefield. Now, we are going to die under the knives and swords of these despicable people. Tang Lan's gaze was devoid of emotion as he looked at this old friend. I, Tang Lan, have always been skilled in scheming. Now, I am going to die under the schemes of others. I cannot accept this, Tang Bai said. Your Highness, who do you think this group of people are? Who they are is no longer important. Tang Lan seemed to have aged decades. Qin Yin wants me dead. Qin Yi also wants me dead. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, Su Miyun, and the others all want to skin me and eat my flesh. Now, even these wicked people of Iha country want me dead. Northern Qi, oh Northern Qi, I, Tang Lan, have roamed the world my entire life. When have I ever been afraid of such lowly people? But now, I have to rely on others and be controlled by the Northern Qi government. Your Highness, Tang Bai's heart ached. We still have at least 5,000 people in our hands. There is no need to be controlled by the Northern Qi government. They have Tianshu and so do we. What is there to be afraid of? Tang Lan slowly shook his head. It's useless, it's useless. The blame lies solely on me, Tang Lan, and not on you. Tang Bai, immediately gather your men and bring these 5,000 people to break out of the city. Her Highness Yin only ordered me to defend the city, so, let me, Tang Lan, defend the 100-ridge city alone. Whether I live or die, it's up to fate. Tang Bai gritted his teeth. I will not abandon your highness. If we die, then we die together. I will gather everyone to defend the manor. Tang Lon sighed. Why must you do this? Tang Bai smiled. This is my last act of loyalty as a Tang family general. Please, your highness, give me this opportunity. Let me die with you on the battlefield. The Iha country's traitors will be killed by both men and gods. Fighting against them, I will die without regrets. Okay. At noon, Tanglan's army gave up on the 4 city gates and gathered all 5,000 people in the manor. It seemed that Tanglan was already fighting against the entire military power of Iha country. Amidst the sound of horse hooves, a row of riders galloped forward and faced Tanglan's army from afar. Who are they? Tanglan asked the person beside him, dressed in armor and holding a steel knife. Tang Bai said, they are mercenaries, Iha country's mercenaries. Tanglan couldn't help but smile. Iha country actually spent money to hire mercenaries to kill me? Looks like that's the case. Tang Bai laughed bitterly. At this time, a mercenary wearing a high-ranking military rank urged his horse forward. He had a face full of beard and held a heavy battle axe in his hand. He smiled and said, You old men, which one of you is Tang Lon? Tang Lon urged his horse forward. I am. The mercenary laughed heartily. So it's you. Looks like you can't even withstand a blow from my axe. Tang Lon, listen carefully. I am the president of the Iha country's Vanguard Mercenary Guild. My name is Li Dalei. Remember my name. The people of Northern Qi have offered 20 million Jin coins for your head. As long as we get your head, we will not have to worry about food or clothing for the rest of our lives. Tang Lon laughed coldly. So my head is so valuable. Li Dalei, if you want my head, then come and take it. If you have the ability, cut the crap. Charge and kill. Li Dalei gave the order and the mercenaries immediately charged. Get into formation, defensive formation. At Tang Bai's command, a group of old soldiers immediately moved with shields in their hands. Although they were old, in terms of fighting ability, they were tens of thousands of times stronger than this motley crew of mercenaries. Shields were erected in great numbers and spears were thrust forward. 3 consecutive lines of spears were formed, rendering the charge of the mercenaries useless. Soon, the mercenaries became meat skewers on the tips of the spears. Damn it! Li Dalei flew into a rage. Everyone charge! Nearly 2,000 mercenaries charged forward, and a bloody battle began in front of the prince's residence. On the 23rd of February, the Vanguard Mercenary Guild was completely annihilated. Tanglan's army also lost nearly 1,000 men. Early in the morning, another group of people began to attack the prince's residence. They were provincial soldiers from the counties under the jurisdiction of Bailing City. There were more than 4,000 of them, and they were well equipped. After a few volleys of arrows, they killed hundreds of Tanglan's men. At this time, Tanglan's army was also showing signs of fatigue. However, there were more and more soldiers outside the mansion, and the flags of the Iha nation were joined together. At noon, the crowd parted. The leader of Northern Qi, walked out in a long robe. He cupped his fists and smiled. Tanglan, Duke Lan, Your Highness, I have come to send you on your way. Chapter 609. Northern Qi Eagle? Tanglan leaned on his long sword and laughed shakily. 10 years ago, I came to Bailing City once. At that time, the power of the heavenly book had not yet awakened. You were just a servant boy who served tea. Now, you are already the prime minister of Iha Kingdom. The tides of life change in an instant. Northern Qi Eagle, do you want my head as a gift to Qini? Why not? The wrinkles on the Northern Qi Eagle's face were about to bloom from his smile. Tanglan, you have been immersed in power and wealth. You never thought you would end up like this, right? Once the cunning hare is dead, the hound is cooked. It has always been like this. You hold great power and make Qin suspicious. It is reasonable for you to end up like this. If you know what's good for you, obediently hand over your head. I can still spare your subordinates on account of your virtue and prestige. Tang Lan paused and seemed to be moved. Just as he was about to speak, Tang Bai suddenly pulled the bowstring of an arrow box hidden behind a pomegranate tree leaf. Immediately, a series of steel arrows flew straight toward the northern she-eagle. Father, be careful. The northern she-eagle gave a low roar and suddenly swung the long sword in his hand. The power of heaven and earth surged in an instant. Endless frost formed an ice shield in front of the northern she-eagle, blocking all the steel arrows. However, a number of northern Qi private soldiers around them were shot to death. Their intestines were pierced and they died wretchedly. Northern Qi Eagle glanced at them and couldn't help but say with an ashen face, "This group of ignorant old men. Father, there is no need to be polite to them. Just kill them. Tang Lan cannot escape." The northern Qi Eagle looked coldly in the direction of the manor and said, "Advance with the shield formation. Be careful of their arrow boxes." In reality, Tang Lan only had 2 arrow boxes. They had come in a hurry and had no time to bring more. Tang Bai had already made up his mind to kill and did not want to drag out an ignoble existence. This made Tang Lan feel helpless and pained. These old generals were all battle-hardened family soldiers of the Seven Seas Tang sect. Now, they were all going to die here for no reason and become gifts from the northern Qi government to Qi. How ironic was this? Archers, fire! Tang Bai roared. He held a steel knife in his hand and stood guard outside the door. He did not budge an inch as he looked at the northern Qi private army outside. He roared, "Fiery tome, release." The 3 heavenly tomes exploded in an instant. Raging flames engulfed the dozens of private soldiers who were attacking outside the mansion. However, the opponent's counterattack was even fiercer. The northern Qi mansion was the most powerful family of heavenly tomes in the Iha kingdom. Naturally, they would not be lacking in heavenly tomes. A group of family generals rushed over and raised their weapons. Suddenly, a storm, raging flames, and frost swept up the walls of the mansion, killing the archers there one by one. Wretched screams filled the air. The Prince of Jianan's mansion was very sturdy and well fortified. There were even 4 tall watchtowers inside the mansion. At this moment, 100 archers entered the watchtowers and shot down from above. This created a great deal of pressure for the northern Qi people outside the city. Tang Bai also ordered people to find oil from the mansion's kitchen and pour it outside. He ordered a fire and also delayed some of the opponent's attacks. But the northern Qi people's slow attack did not mean that Tang Lan's army could win. Tang Lan and Tang Bai both knew that the northern Qi mansion's military power was not less than theirs. They also had the support of all the noble families and nobles in the city. In reality, Tang Lan's army was fighting alone. There was no chance of victory. Their current resistance was only delaying. Tang Lan's muddy eyes were filled with confusion. Sitting under the eaves, he watched the endless arrows fall into the courtyard. He said, "Tang Bai, I'm going to sleep for a while. When the northern Qi people attack call me." "Yes, Your Highness." When Tang Bai turned to look, he was frightened by Tang Lan's expression. For the first time, despair and confusion appeared on Tang Lan's face. 500 li away, on a small path outside the forest, dust billowed. The travelers and caravans on the road all made way. A line of 5,000 light cavalry of the National Army galloped past, kicking up a cloud of dust. Tang Xiaoxi, dressed in a deep purple princess cloak, tightly gripped the reins of her snow pear warhorse. She rushed at the front of the formation. Her beautiful face was full of fatigue and anxiety. After 2 days and 2 nights of continuous travel, she was almost exhausted. To the side, Tangjin looked at Tang Xiaoxi's appearance and couldn't help but say, "Princess, we've been traveling for too long. Many of the soldiers can't take it anymore. Why don't we rest for the night and leave tomorrow morning? That way, when we reach Bailing City, we can preserve some of our strength and battle power." Tang Xiaoxi's elegant brows furrowed. Thinking of Tang Lan's situation in Bailing City, she couldn't help but feel as if a knife was twisting in her heart. Slowly she said, "Grandfather shouldn't have ended up like this. I can't just watch him throw away his life. We must reach Bai Ling City as quickly as possible. We must march through the night. We must reach Bai Ling City before sunrise tomorrow. At night, the outside of the Duke of Jiannan's mansion was ablaze. The attack of the Iha country's army was even fiercer. Even many provincial soldiers from the prefectural cities had rushed over. They used the siege chariots to smash the walls of the Duke's mansion. Puff! A steel arrow shot into Tang Lan's arm. She felt a burning pain. The arrow seemed to have been dipped in poison. Tang Lan didn't care so much. She pulled out the bloody arrowhead and threw it aside. She said, "Tang Bai, how many of them are here?" "I don't know." "Many, God damn it." Tang Lan was a little helpless. She asked, "How many warhorses do we have?" "At least 2,000. It's enough. Order everyone to equip the warhorses with armor. We're going to rush out. We can't continue to sit here and wait for death. The elite soldiers of Bai Ling City are gone. These mobs might not be able to stop us." Tang Bai walked forward and helped Tang Lan onto the warhorse. However, the blood on Tang Lan's arm flowed down his fingers. Tang Bai couldn't help but ask, "Your Highness, are you all right? I'll bandage it for you. We'll leave after that." "No, it's too late." Tang Lan said, "The defense of the east courtyard is weak. We'll kill our way out from there." The sound of hooves became more concentrated. Close to 1,500 Tang sect cavalrymen charged out from the east gate. However, there were still at least 1,000 soldiers from nominal peace country outside the east courtyard. Tens of thousands of arrows were fired at the same time. The cavalrymen in the front row were killed one after another. They groaned and fell to the ground with their warhorses. It was an extremely tragic scene. Tang Lan followed the army on the warhorse. Tang Bai held a heavy shield in front of Tang Lan. He shouted in a low voice, "Charge forward. Don't hesitate. Protect His Highness." More and more people died. The Iha country's army on both sides of the road increased. Many people were shouting, "Capture Tang Lan and make him a prince. Whoever seizes Tang Lan's head will be rewarded with 10 million gold and be made a marquis." The arrows were swift and fierce. In the blink of an eye, 2 arrows shot into Tang Bai's abdomen armor, which wasn't protected by the shield. He let out a muffled groan but didn't say anything. He slashed the arrows with his steel blade and left the arrowheads in his body. He continued to protect Tang Lan as he charged forward. The Prince of Jiannan's residence was about 5 kilometers away from the north gate. However, this distance was like a road of death. They fought all the way until dawn when they finally saw the north gate in the distance. Tang Bai's face was pale. He said, "Your Highness? Your Highness, we're about to break out of the encirclement." Yes, Tang Lan's face was ashen. He had lost a lot of blood from his arm. He said, "The gate will definitely be heavily guarded. Send an elite team to kill our way out and climb the gate. Also, see if there are any Imperial reinforcements in the distance." "There won't be any reinforcements." Tang Bai mumbled, "The Empire has already given up on us, old fellows." Tang Lan trembled slightly. At this time, a young and valiant general of the Tang family led a few dozen men and dashed forward. Their swords danced in the air, cutting the Iha soldiers who were blocking their way into pieces. The moment he climbed up the gate, he was covered in blood and his chest was full of arrows. At this time, the first rays of dawn appeared. A ray of sunlight fell on his face as if it was shining on a new dream. Under the light of dawn, he saw a row of cavalry in the distance. The purple Yinhua war flag and the 7 Hearts begonia war flag fluttered in the air. He couldn't help but tremble. He turned to look at Tang Lan and said, "Your Highness, reinforcements are here." "Reinforcements?" Tang Lan was excited. "Who is it?" "It's the flag of the kingdom guarding army. Princess, she is here." "Your Highness, Princess, she is here to save us." "Great, open the gate." But right at this moment, a figure suddenly descended from the sky, raised his hand, and chopped off the Tang family's young general's head, sending it flying. Fresh blood splattered all over his face. It was none other than Luo Lan's disciple, the Saint Realm powerhouse, Han Jun. Han Jun licked his bloody palm and smiled. Men, seal the gate. Kill them all. Don't leave a single one alive. The 7 world palaces had sent out their troops. Dozens of Heaven Realm and Saint Domain experts charged into the crowd, and in the blink of an eye, they had killed nearly 100 Tang clan soldiers. Han Jun's face was filled with rage as he bellowed, "Kill them! Kill them all! Leave Tanglan's head for me!" Tanglan's face was ashen. Looking at the tall city walls in the distance, he couldn't help but cry out in pain. He clutched his chest and cried, "Shao Shi, my good Shao Shi, grandfather will not be able to live to see you again." Tang Bai hurriedly grabbed the reins of Tanglan's warhorse and shouted, "Men, protect His Highness and charge back." There were not many people left in Tanglan's army. A few dozen people had died under the sharp arrows. In the end, only Tang Bai and Tanglan, the 2 old generals, were left galloping through the streets filled with soldiers and civilians of Iha Nation. It was a mess. Jiao, the war horse whinnied. Tang Bai's war horse lost its front hooves and fell to the ground. Following that, the war horse carrying Tang Lan also fell to the ground. Tang Bai hurriedly helped the bloodied Tang Lan up. He was so anxious that tears fell from his eyes. Dukelan, subordinate is useless, subordinate is useless. Tang Lan slowly shook his head. Old friend, we tried our best. A group of Iha Nation civilians surrounded them. Some of them were holding a blacksmith's hammer, some were holding a hoe, and some were holding a tailor's scissors. Their faces were twisted with hatred. One of them said, "That old man is Tang Lan. He is the one who wants to overthrow Iha Nation and make us the Empire's dogs again. Kill him! Kill him!" They got closer and closer. Tang Lan and Tang Bai sat back to back on the ground. They couldn't help but burst into laughter as tears rolled down their cheeks. Chapter 610. Kill him! The flames of anger seemed to want to devour the 2 old men in front of them. The Iha commoners came closer and closer. One of them swung his hammer at Tang Bai. "You're looking to die." Tang Bai gathered his remaining strength and swung his sword, cutting the blacksmith in half at the waist. Blood splattered on the ground. "Murder! Murder! These dogs of the Empire have gone mad. They're killing people. Kill him!" T. Tang Bai looked angrily at the Iha commoners and said, "You killing people is not murder, but is it unforgivable for me to kill people? Hypocritical Iha, hypocritical Qin I, you lowly and pitiful foolish commoners. Kill him! Kill him!" The commoners' cries grew louder and louder. Outside the crowd, the people from Northern Qi had already arrived. The Northern Qi eagle spurred on his warhorse with a group of private soldiers beside him. Beside him, the Northern Qi Bai said, "Father, these commoners want to kill Tang Lan and steal his credit. What should we do?" The Northern Qi eagle's lips curled up. "Let them kill him. It will be difficult to go against the public's anger. Besides, there is an ancient saying, the hearts of the people come first. If we can win the hearts of the people, what is a mere Tang Lan's head worth? Wait until they kill Tang Lan, then you can go and steal his head." "Yes, I understand." Tang Lan die. Tang Lan's die. No one knew who suddenly shouted this, but more and more people followed suit. Tang Lan's consciousness was already beginning to fade. He forced himself to open his eyes and looked at the angry faces before him. Suddenly, he laughed and used his sword to support his body as he stood up. Looking at the commoners, he said, "The late Emperor, Qin Jin, once said, 'The hearts of the people come first.' Qin Jin was a benevolent person and did not want to kill too much. Now I, Tang Lan, finally understand this principle. So, the late Emperor, Qin Jin, was the true wise ruler. If not for Qin Yi, how could the late Emperor have been killed? You people of Iha were originally citizens of the Empire. Now that you want me to die, I will grant your wish. If I can give you a lifetime of glory, then I will offer my head to you. My granddaughter, Tang Xiaoxi, is just outside the city. I hope she won't start a massacre on you trash. Whoosh! The saber slashed across Tang Lan's throat, leaving a long gash. Blood immediately spurted out. "Your Highness? Your Highness!" The old General Tang Bai's entire body trembled. Only now did he come to his senses. He hurriedly hugged Tang Lan's body and desperately pressed his palm against Tang Lan's neck. He shouted, "Why are you doing this? Why are you doing this?" Tang Lan's entire body convulsed as blood gushed out of his mouth. He wanted to say something, but no words came out. He could only use his hands to grab onto Tang Bai's shoulder armor. A few seconds later, his hands fell to the ground, and his life force was completely drained away. "Your Highness!" Tang Bai raised his head and shouted at the top of his lungs. Outside the 100-ridge city, Tang Xiaoxi, who was galloping on her horse, could already see the billowing clouds in the 100-ridge city. Suddenly, her heart skipped a beat, and she even found it hard to breathe. She clutched her chest and said, "Tangjin, lead the army outside the city and wait for my news. I'll enter the city first, don't act rashly." The flag of the Iha nation was fluttering on the city walls, which meant that the city had fallen. "Princess, don't be rash," Tangjin hurriedly said. But how could Tang Xiaoxi listen to his advice? She galloped to the foot of the city, and the Iha nation's guards on the city wall immediately shouted, "Men, release the arrows." Tens of thousands of arrows shot out at the same time, and the flames grew brighter. Tang Xiaoxi had already entered her nine-tailed transformation state. She suddenly jumped off the horse's back, and the fire god's seal in her palm landed on the city gate. It melted the iron and flew in. Behind her, the pitiful snow pear warhorse was directly shot into a hedgehog, and it died miserably at the foot of the city. "It's Tang Xiaoxi, block her!" The people in the city shouted loudly. But at this moment, Tang Xiaoxi's spiritual sense could clearly sense that Tang Lan's life force was rapidly disappearing. Her heart was in a mess, and she exploded with a terrifying power. Flames swept out, and instantly, 3 Heaven Realm experts from the 7 world palaces were burned to ashes. In the air, the Holy King Realm powerful being, Han Jun, let loose an enraged roar, and a frost-covered palm descended from the sky. "Do you think you can do whatever you want in the Empire? Tang Xiaoxi, hand over your life." Flames rose into the sky, and when Tang Xiaoxi raised her head, Han Jun's heart shuddered involuntarily. There was no emotion in her beautiful golden eyes, and in the next instant, flames engulfed Han Jun. Tang Xiaoxi's fire god seal crashed heavily into Han Jun's abdomen. Bam! Monarch battle flames erupted, but Han Jun was only injured, not killed. The battle armor on his abdomen quickly reformed, and an extremely tough layer of frost appeared over his skin. This was also one of the main reasons why he was able to withstand Tang Xiaoxi's attack. "Heh, you want to kill me?" Han Jun abruptly unleashed a palm strike toward Tang Xiaoxi's back. However, in that instant, a cold smile flashed through Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes. All of a sudden, she slowly spread open her fingers, and a series of crimson energy claws extended from her fingernails. Tang Xiaoxi abruptly rushed forward, and all 5 of her crimson claws pierced into Han Jun's abdomen before abruptly pulling them apart. Han Jun let loose a howl of anguish as he crashed heavily into the ground in the distance, and he died in the blink of an eye. A powerful being of the Holy King realm had been defeated by Tang Xiaoxi. "Grandfather," a hint of heartache flashed through Tang Xiaoxi's twisted face, and she rushed toward the crowd in the distance like a ball of flames. She abruptly burst through the crowd, only to discover Tang Lan lying on the ground, as well as a completely incapacitated tailor who was using a pair of scissors to slit his throat. Tang Bai had also died in battle. Tears streamed down Tang Xiaoxi's face, and she felt as if she had fallen into an abyss. She slowly walked over and knelt beside Tang Lan's body, sobbing loudly. "Grandfather? Grandfather? Xiao Shi is unfilial, it's all Xiao Shi's unfilial." Wisps of golden smoke swirled around Tang Xiaoxi, as if forming a force field. She slowly raised her arm, and a golden light shot out, directly piercing through the tailor's heart. His eyes widened in disbelief, unable to believe that this beautiful young lady would suddenly kill him. "Tang Lan's head is worth 20 million Jin coins. Cut off Tang Lan's head and you will be rewarded with a title of 10,000 marquis. Go! If you want to become a high-ranking official, now is the time. The surrounding crowd continued to clamor, but as Tang Xiaoxi knelt beside Tang Lan's body, the crowd was somewhat fearful. However, no matter how fearful they were, she was just a young lady, so what could she do? As a result, the crowd surged forward. The citizens of Iha country seemed to have lost their minds, and their eyes were filled with the desire for power. They all knew that as long as they killed the young lady in front of them, they would obtain supreme status. Not only the mercenaries and hunters wanted to kill her, but even the women carrying egg baskets and green onions also wanted to fish in troubled waters. Chop off Tang Lan's head. Young lady, go away, this has nothing to do with you. Yes, young lady, go away, we don't want to kill you. The crowd moved closer and closer, and the nearest hoe was less than a meter away from Tang Xiaoxi's head. Tang Xiaoxi raised her delicate and beautiful face, looking at the crowd blankly and murmured, "Grandfather is already dead, why do you still want to chop off his head? Because his head is worth a lot of money. Go away. Otherwise, don't blame us for making a move." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly laughed, looking up at the sky, laughing especially sinisterly, and her beautiful face twisted again. A touch of golden light seeped into her eyes, and the 9 flame tails behind her swayed slowly. She said softly, "If you want to die, then come at me, go. Kill this ungrateful little bitch. Kill her." The crowd waved their weapons and rushed forward, but Tang Xiaoxi suddenly opened her palm, and suddenly a huge blood-red claw swept across, almost dismembering the group of people in front of her. Blood splattered all over the ground, and also on Tang Xiaoxi, but she seemed to be unable to feel it. What she wanted to do was kill whoever dared to touch Tang Lan's body. She's not human. She's a demon. Kill the demon. Slay the demon. The crowd continued to surge forward, and it was unknown how many people dared to rush toward Tang Xiaoxi. The sound of bodies shattering rose one after another. Tang Xiaoxi raised her palm, and the 9-tailed claws were filled with divine power. No matter how many people came, they must die. She was lost. At this moment, Tang Xiaoxi was lost in the slaughter, and her arms kept moving, turning the crowd into a sea of corpses. Blood filled the Bailing city, and soon, the news spread through the streets and alleys. Everyone knew that a demon had appeared in the Bailing city and was killing people. But humans were like this, and the stranger they were, the more people rushed toward where Tang Xiaoxi was. What happened to me? Yihai had already turned into a sea of blood. Tang Xiaoxi dejectedly knelt in the sea of blood, hugging her head and crying bitterly, "I killed many innocent people. I am a bad woman." The voice sounded again. "They are just a group of lowly people who want to use your grandfather to exchange for fame and status. They all deserve to be killed, and you don't have to blame yourself. Tang Xiaoxi, you are a god, and they are humans. These lowly humans were originally your slaves, and it doesn't matter if you kill them. More blood can make you stronger." "No." Tang Xiaoxi shook her head quickly, and said while crying, "I don't want to kill people. I don't want to be a bad woman. Do you have a choice?" The bewitching 9-tailed figure stepped out of the Yihai and laughed. "If you don't kill them, they will cut off Tang Lan's head. Do you want to see that?" "No, Grandpa can't be beheaded." Tang Xiaoxi cried bitterly, "No, then let's kill. Isn't that what you want?" Tang Xiaoxi raised her head again, and her eyes were filled with a merciless golden light. Chapter 611. Bai Ling City has fallen. The Seven Seas King has committed suicide. When he said this, Zheng Yifan's expression was very calm, as if he had already expected all of this to happen. In the tent, only Luo Exin, Wei Chou, and the others were shocked. "What about Xiangyu?" Qin Yin asked. The messenger cupped his fists and said, "Marquis Pingnan has already seized Sword Pavilion, but he didn't find Qin. Qin Yi seems to have sneaked into the forest to the east of Sword Pavilion to escape." "Is there any other news?" Qin Yin asked softly. Zheng Yifan said, "Your Highness, Long Qianlin has led 200,000 troops to Lingnan province. There are 3 possible routes he could choose. One is to go to Bailing City, another is to Sword Pavilion, and the last is to go to the forest to find Qi Ni. No matter which route he takes, we can't act rashly. Long Qianlin's 200,000 troops aren't that easy to deal with. I understand. At this moment, the messenger said hesitantly, Your Highness, there's another news from Yushu. What news? Princess She has led 5,000 elite troops to attack Bailing City to protect the Seven Seas King. Just yesterday, Princess She entered Bailing City alone to protect Tang Lan's body. We don't know the situation until now. What? Qin Yin couldn't help but stand up. She felt a sudden pain in her chest and said, Shao Shi saw Tang Lan? 10,000 troops, follow me to Sword Pavilion to Bailing City. What? Su Muyun was stunned and said with an intense expression, Shao Yin, you can't. Bailing City has already fallen into the hands of Iha country. Luo Lan and Ouyang Yen, these 2 strong enemies, haven't made any moves yet. We can't act rashly. If you go to Bailing City rashly, it's no different from throwing your life away. No, I want to go to Bailing City. Qin Yin's eyes were red as if she was about to cry. I will pay for the sins I have committed. I can't let Shao Shi take the punishment for me. No one should try to persuade me. This is an order. Big brother Yu, lead the Longdan army camp and stay here to block the Qianfeng army. Is that all right? Lin Muyu nodded. Her heart was filled with mixed feelings as she said, We must bring Shao Shi back safely. Also, the advance party of the demon race has already begun to attack Dupi province. Zheng Yifan cupped his fists and said, Your Highness, this old official thinks that we should send troops to reinforce Dupi province first. Your Highness shouldn't abandon such a huge Dupi province for Princess Shi. Stop it. Qin Yin raised her voice and said, I will never let Shao Shi down. That's it. Send your troops and follow me. If you don't want to, I will go alone. Your Highness. Su Muyun muttered, I shall follow you. N. On the 26th day of the 2nd month in the year 7736 of the Empire calendar, after Qin Yin's 10,000-strong army passed through the Sword Garret, the old general Su Muyun fell seriously ill from a cold. That night, the cold wind howled. It was rare for a spring night to be so cold. Inside the tent, the candlelight flickered. Su Muyun's old face was heartbreaking under the candlelight. Qin Yin sat at the side with red eyes. She held Su Muyun's hand, tears streaming down her face. It's a pity. Su Yu isn't here. Su Muyun coughed violently and said, I seem to have seen a scene from 20 years ago. I saw Su Qin, Su Yu, and Shao Yin's mother, Su Yun. They are all still here. I saw the Emperor Qin Jin's favor descend upon the Su family. I saw the day you were born. Grandfather, stop it. Qin Yin's tears fell like rain. No, let me say it. If I don't say it now, I won't have the chance to say it in the future. Su Muyun held Qin Yin's hand tightly and said with a dejected expression, I'm not a good grandfather. For the sake of the Su family, I've done many things that let the Qin family down. Shao Yin, don't blame grandfather. As the saying goes, when a man is about to die, his words are kind, and when a bird is about to die, its cry is sorrowful. Grandfather, cough, cough, cough. Grandfather has worked hard in this life so that the Su family can rise again, so that the Su family can continue to prosper. But, the more I walk down this path, the darker it gets. I can't see the end, and I can't see hope. Only now, grandfather finally understands, cough, cough, cough. Su Muyun coughed out a pool of blood and panted heavily. He was on the verge of breaking down. After resting for a while, he continued, I finally understand, Shao Yin, you are my future. You are a descendant of the Su family. Half of the Su family's blood flows through your veins. Why was I so foolish and did so many foolish things? If I had known this would happen, I definitely wouldn't have allowed Qin Jin to head to the fairy lake. I will never be able to repay my mistakes. Qin Yin sobbed and said, Grandfather, don't say it anymore. Xiao Yin knows that grandfather will always be a loyal subject of the Cloud Middle Province. Su Muyun, you will always be. I know it, and father definitely knows it too. No, there is no such thing as a loyal subject in this world. Su Muyun's smile was extremely miserable. He said, I hate Qin Jin for wanting to kill Su Qin so ruthlessly. That was my only son. Can you forgive grandfather? Yes, I can. Qin Yin said as she sobbed. All right, Luo Exin, come here. Luo Exin walked to the bed and knelt on the ground. Her eyes were red. Father. Luo Exin, my son. Su Muyun panted heavily. Swear here that you will forever be loyal to the Qin family and to the empire. Yes, Luo Exin swears that I will forever be loyal to the Qin family and to the empire. Good, Su Muyun revealed a gratified smile, but this smile also slowly froze on his face. Su Muyun died of illness. At this point, the two most powerful subjects of the Qin Empire, Tang Lan had committed suicide and Su Muyun had died of a cold during the march. The era of the two dukes ruling the Qin Empire had finally come to an end. At noon on the 27th day of the second month of the empire's calendar, Qin Yin met up with Jianghu. A total of 60,000 soldiers arrived outside Bailing City. They met up with Tang Jin's 5,000 men who had been attacking the city for a long time. Your Highness. Tang Jin dismounted and walked on the muddy road outside the city. He cupped his fists and said, Bailing City is very sturdy. The 7 world palaces have sent reinforcements. Now, in addition to the 50,000 men gathered by the northern Qi prefecture, we have not been able to attack for a long time. What should we do? Is there Xiao Yin's Xiaoxi? Not at the moment, but I heard that Princess She killed many people in the city. Many people? I will enter the city first. You guys continue to attack, Qin Yin said lightly. Luo Exin hurriedly said, No, wait, Your Highness. It is too dangerous for you to enter the city alone. No, I have no other choice. Qin Yin slowly untied the belt of the Empress's cloak and threw the luxurious cloak into the mud. She left behind her sword and charged forward with a light shout. With a bang, under the impact of Qin Yin's divine power, a crack appeared in the air. She disappeared in an instant. The god-level expert's ability to shatter the void shocked Jianghu, Luo Exin, Tang Jin, and the others. Sush. When she reappeared, she was already in the city. However, what greeted her eyes were piles of corpses. Flies were flying around, and her nostrils were filled with the strong smell of blood. Qin Yin couldn't help but feel a pain in her heart. She flew through the air and saw that the street was already filled with corpses. There were civilians and soldiers. Only God knew how many people Tang Xiaoxi had killed. She walked for a full 5 kilometers and saw corpses piled up everywhere. In the distance, tyrannical forces rose and fell. There, a beautiful demon fox was waving her arms, and the blood-red claws that were several meters long tore the mercenaries' bodies into pieces. Tang Xiaoxi opened her mouth, and a pair of exquisite fangs pierced into the neck of a mercenary, ruthlessly tearing off a piece of flesh. She spat it out, and at the same time, she also sensed the arrival of an expert. She raised her head, and her golden eyes looked at Qin Yin, who was standing in the air. Suddenly, the corners of her mouth rose, and she laughed. Qin Yin, are you here to see a joke? Xiaoxi, Qin Yin was dumbfounded. She instantly felt as if a knife was twisting in her heart. I didn't, really? Tang Xiaoxi burst into laughter. Her laughter was extremely ferocious, and her eyes were filled with wildness as she said, You asked my grandfather to bring only one person to guard Bailing City. How vicious is it to kill someone with a borrowed knife? Qin Yin, you despicable woman. How much better are you than me now? Pa, are you going to kill me? Come on, I heard that your cultivation has improved a lot. Let me see. The Tang Xiaoxi in front of her was obviously not the Tang Xiaoxi anymore. Xiaoxi don't. Qin Yin was trembling all over. Come on. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly shouted, and the flames on her body surged. She entered the state of transformation. She jumped up, and her blood-red claws came down heavily from the air. Qin Yin subconsciously gathered her strength, and a celestial dragon crystal was placed in front of her chest. Bang! The two divine powers collided. Tang Xiaoxi's blood-red claws were no match for the celestial dragon crystal and were broken. However, this was just a body of energy. She waved her arms and gathered her claws again. She attacked crazily. "Did you see my grandfather's body? Is this what you want?" Tang Xiaoxi roared. She launched the God's Seal and the God's Kill Seal at the same time. Boom boom! The two attacks were completely blocked by the protective wall of the celestial dragon crystal. Through the broken pieces of energy, Qin Yin looked at Tang Xiaoxi with tears in her eyes. She said, "Xiaoxi, come back." Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were full of ruthlessness and sarcasm. She said, "You used all your tricks to kill my grandfather. Do you think a bad woman like you deserves Linmuyu? Do you?" "I don't deserve." Qin Yin burst into tears. Tang Xiaoxi suddenly got close to Qin Yin. Her blood-red claws pierced through Qin Yin's chest. Blood flowed down her fingers. However, the protective power of the celestial dragon crystal was extremely strong. With 7 celestial dragon crystals whirling around them at the same time, Tang Xiaoxi would not be able to resist it. However, Qin Yin gently loosened her grip, and the celestial dragon crystals scattered. "But, are you showing mercy to me?" Tang Xiaoxi smiled ferociously. She suddenly pulled out her claws and pierced them into Qin Yin's chest again. She laughed and said, "Can this godhead of yours protect you?" "Stop, little she." Sparkling and translucent tears rolled down Qin Yin's cheeks. She endured the immense pain and said, "We promised that we would never break our promise. Little she, don't stop. It hurts so much." Tang Xiaoxi's golden eyes were full of mockery. "Break, got it." Buzz, buzz, buzz. Qin Yin's overgod lattice flew out of her EC and gathered between the two of them. It shone with a dazzling golden light, but it was buzzing and trembling. With the death of its master, this overgod lattice was about to self-destruct. Xiaoxi, Qin Yin stretched out her bloodied palm and gently caressed Tang Xiaoxi's face. "Come back quickly, this is not the real you. In the future, I can no longer accompany Ayu. You have to love him together with my love." Tang Xiaoxi said. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The godhead spun madly and shattered. The self-destruction had begun. At that moment, the golden light in Tang Xiaoxi's eyes finally dimmed. She suddenly woke up and saw her finger piercing Qin Yin's heart. Instantly, Tang Xiaoxi burst into tears. Xiao Yinai, swoosh. Before dying, the celestial dragon crystal in Qin Yin's hand flickered and turned into a crystal pillar that protected Tang Xiaoxi. At that moment, the godhead finally exploded. Tang Xiaoxi saw a scene that she would never forget for the rest of her life. Qin Yin's body was instantly smashed by the godhead's explosion. However, the celestial dragon crystal that was formed from the last bit of her strength lingered around Tang Xiaoxi. Bang! A massive explosion rang out. The power of the overgod sparks explosion was unimaginable. In the blink of an eye, the ground was reduced to dust, and it was as if the end of the world had come. Everything was destroyed, and a blood-red abyss appeared in the ground. Lightning descended from the sky. Standing by the sand table, Lin Muyu suddenly felt a tearing pain in her heart. She couldn't help but kneel on the ground. Her eyes blurred and tears flowed down her cheeks. The second volume, Fireworks, ended. Riches and glory in life are like fireworks, fleeting clouds and smoke. Qin Yin died for Tang Xiaoxi. No one knows if it was worth it or not. We are the same. After experiencing it, we feel that it was wrong. However, some mistakes are the most beautiful memories. At the most wrong time, we always meet the right person. There is no need to hate. All we can do is be grateful and look forward to the future. Next, I will enter the third volume, 3 Kings Rule the World. I hope everyone likes the spiritual cultivation realm. This is a novel written by Yi Zihua with great effort. Chapter 612. The ground to the north of the 100-ridge city continued to collapse, and fiery red magma rose from below. Strands of golden holy light lingered in the surroundings. 20 miles of the 100-ridge city had collapsed, and the northern part of the 100-ridge city had completely turned into a living hell. In the sky, flames soared into the sky. Tang Xiaoxi held her head and let out a heart-wrenching scream. Killing Qin Yin with her own hands was an unimaginable pain to her. She would rather be the one killed instead. Swoosh! A strand of blood-red light seeped out of Tang Xiaoxi's eye and condensed into a human body. Just as she was about to leave, Tang Xiaoxi suddenly opened her eyes and stared at her with a pair of golden eyes full of killing intent. Bastard, do you still want to leave? She opened her palm, and a fiery fox claw suddenly caught Yaoji, who was trying to escape. Yaoji was just a demon with a spiritual body. Originally, her body could not be controlled by the power of the mortal world. However, at this time, there were strands of golden flame divine power flowing between Tang Xiaoxi's fingers. The divine power could capture everything in the world, including spiritual bodies. For a moment, Yaoji kept screaming, and her body quickly curled up in Tang Xiaoxi's palm. God Emperor, save me! Saint Master, save me! Yaoji screamed at the top of her lungs. Bang! Blood splashed. Tang Xiaoxi turned into a nine-tailed fox and squeezed Yaoji's body into a pile of flesh and blood. Looking up, she saw two people standing in the sky. They were the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master of the Devil Clan. At this time, the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master were surrounded by Master Devil power. They were ready to take action as if they were facing a formidable enemy. Tang Xiaoxi understood everything in an instant. She lowered her head and cried silently. She murmured, "It's you who deliberately made me kill Xiao Yin and used this despicable spiritual body to bewitch my heart. Is it you?" The Devil Emperor stared at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Yes, it's us." The Demon King stared at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "That's right, it's us. But you have to understand our painstaking efforts. Nine-tailed, you are a monster, and our divine race is called the demon race by the humans. That's right, we all have a demonic nature. You and I are a family. Now that the human race is becoming stronger, the divine race needs your strength, and you also need the protection of the divine race. You have no choice. Nine-tailed Tang Xiaoxi, you belong to the divine race. In your dreams." Tang Xiaoxi suddenly raised her head, her golden eyes filled with ruthlessness. Flame divine power suddenly burst forth, as if a scorching sun had bloomed in the sky. Arg! The Devil Emperor and the Saint Master were directly impacted by the divine power. They let out miserable cries. When they opened their eyes, Tang Xiaoxi was already in front of the Saint Master. Her sharp claws swept across. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. Demonic shadows flew past and condensed in the palm of the Saint Master. It was like a blood-red demonic plate. He shouted angrily, "5 demons combination, wheel of blood." Bang! The sharp claws of the 9 tails pierced through the wheel of blood and stabbed into the abdomen of the Saint Master. At the same time, the armor of the wheel of blood twisted one of Tang Xiaoxi's arms into a bloody mess. She was going all out. "Your Majesty," the Saint Master howled miserably. He covered his abdomen and retreated in the air. He shouted, "She's crazy. Stop her." The Devil Emperor stood high in the sky. He put his palms together. Demonic seals revolved around his palms. He shouted, "Demonic binding seal." The blood-red demonic binding seal revolved around Tang Xiaoxi. It tightened inch by inch, making it impossible for her to move. These demonic binding seals were crystallized from divine power. Tang Xiaoxi's 9-tailed avatar was suddenly very strong. However, the Devil Emperor and the Saint Master working together was even stronger. Arg! Tang Xiaoxi roared crazily. The divine power of fire turned into sharp arrows that shot in all directions. The Saint Master and the Devil Emperor were instantly injured. The Tang Xiaoxi in front of them was like a beautiful beast that had gone mad. If they wanted to capture her, they would have to pay the price in blood. "Saint Master!" The Devil Emperor's arms and abdomen were pierced by the flames. He could not help but roar, What are you waiting for? Use the 6 demons combination to knock her out. Otherwise, we will all die here. The Sage Master gritted his teeth. The higher level of the 5 demons' harmonious divine art was the 6 demons' harmonious divine art. However, every time he used the 6 demons' harmonious divine art, his lifespan would be reduced by 20%. Although gods were immortal, lifespan represented power. The price to pay was that every time he used the 6 demons' harmonious divine art, his cultivation would be greatly reduced. Come on! The Saint Master roared crazily. Countless demonic shadows flew out of his body and gathered in his palms. He brazenly attacked Tang Xiaoxi's back. Bang! Poor Tang Xiaoxi's back was splattered with blood. The back of her head was instantly hit by the Saint Master's palm. Suddenly, her eye was blurred, and she slowly fell into a deep sleep. Perhaps, Tang Xiaoxi did not want to struggle. She would rather sleep and never wake up. She would never have to face the cruel fact that she had killed Qin Yin. The Saint Master panted fiercely. Because he had used too much demonic power, 2 fangs grew out of his mouth. He looked back at the Nephilim Emperor coldly and said, "Your Majesty, your subordinate is done." The Nephilim Emperor raised his palm gently, and a space crack opened behind him. He glanced at Tang Xiaoxi and said, "Which Tang Xiaoxi, you are the queen of the Protoss. Now, come home with us." The light flashed and disappeared as if nothing had happened. 20 miles away, the armies of Jianghu, Luo Xin, and Tangjin were in a mess. Even after retreating for 10 miles, they could not completely avoid this catastrophe. Nearly 10,000 soldiers died in the blood-red abyss, but no one knew what happened. What happened? Tangjin held the reins of his war horse, his face ashen. Luo Xin trembled all over, her face full of pain, and said, "Her Highness Yin, her aura disappeared. How is this possible?" Tangjin said in a low voice, "Didn't Her Highness step into the divine state? How is this possible?" Xiangyu's cultivation was close to that of a god, and he could sense the divine power around him the best. With a cold gaze, he said, "I'm afraid the empire is going to change. After the death of Duke Lan and Duke Yun, Her Highness the Empress seems to be in danger. Her Highness is a god, but her divine aura disappeared completely. There is only one possibility. Her godhead has been destroyed." Godhead destroyed? What does this mean? Tangjin murmured. Luo Xin clenched her fist in pain and said, "Her Highness Yin is dead." Tangjin's nose turned sour, and tears almost fell from his eyes. "What should we do? What should we do now? Where is Princess Shi?" Princess Shi's aura disappeared too. "I'm afraid," Xiangyu looked into the distance with a deep gaze. "I think you all saw it too. It was Princess Shi who killed Her Highness. She killed the Empress." "Impossible. This is impossible." Tangjin shook his head repeatedly and suddenly fell from his war horse to the ground. Luo Xin held her spear and said, "For now, we must control this news. No one can leak it out. Her Highness is not dead. Otherwise, the world will be in chaos." Xiangyu nodded. "That's right. The feudal lords have long been restless. If this news gets out, I'm afraid the world will really be in chaos." Luo Xin said, "I'll write a letter to Lin Muyu to inform him of this news." Yes, a cold wind blew past and everyone's heart was chilled. 7 Customs House. Banquet. Feng Jixing entered the banquet hall with only a wind cutter and a few dozen imperial guards. He knew that this banquet wouldn't be peaceful, and it was destined to be. "General Feng, it's been a long time." Tang Lu led Tang Su and the other Tang generals over. The burn on his face had healed a lot, and he cupped his fists with a smile. "I didn't expect General Feng to grace the 7 seas with your presence. It's really flattering." Feng Jixing smiled faintly. "Young Lord Tang Lu, have you received the news? Duke Lan has already committed suicide in 100 Ridge City, and Tang Xiaoxi has also entered 100 Ridge City. Her fate is unknown." Tang Lu's face was actually full of calmness as he nodded. "I understand." Duke Lan was killed by the traitors of the Iha nation, but young lord is stationed here. What is the meaning of this? Why don't you follow me to Lingnan and recover the lost land of the empire? Is that so? Tang Lu couldn't help but sneer. Feng Jixing, your words are so convincing, but do you know why my grandfather died? Wasn't it because your empress, Qin Yin, exhausted all her schemes and sent my grandfather to his death? My grandfather died in the hands of the empire, not the Iha nation. Men closed the door. Clang. The iron door suddenly closed, and layers of iron chains locked the iron door bolt. Tang Lu tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He smiled. Grandfather's death will be exchanged for the Tang clan's achievements. Feng Jixing, you still don't know that death is at hand? Is that so? Feng Jixing laughed loudly. Young Lord Tang Lu, if you say it like this, then I, Feng Jixing, will not be ashamed to face Princess Shi no matter what I do. Clang! The wind cutter was already unsheathed. Feng Jixing's figure flashed like the wind, and the long blade left a bloody mark on Tang Lu's neck. In the next moment, Tang Lu's head flew off. Blood splattered, and everyone was stunned. No one expected that Feng Jixing would actually dare to make a move in the hall alone. Feng Jixing. Just as Tang Su was about to speak, Feng Jixing's windcutter had already slashed over with the king's fighting flame. Tang Su hastily pulled out his long sword to parry, but the disparity in strength was too great. Feng Jixing bellowed, and the windcutter slashed out a storm. It directly minced Tang Su's body into pieces along with the bodies of the few generals behind him. Stepping on the stone floor, Feng Jixing leaped up. He stepped on the mysterious power of the law of wind and walked step by step toward the host seat. Turning around to look at the group of Tang clan's generals who were at daggers drawn, Feng Jixing shook his palm, and the imperial edict glowed. He said, Empress Qin Yin has decreed that all the generals in the Seven Seas province must listen to me, Feng Jixing, or they will be killed without mercy. You can choose to be loyal to the Tang clan, but the result will be the execution of your entire clan. Now, those who are willing to listen to me, Feng Jixing, step back. Those who want to be loyal to Tang Lu, sick. Everyone was dumbstruck. After a long time, kill. After the time it took for an incense stick to burn, the door to the banquet hall opened with a creak. Feng Jixing's white robe was stained with blood. His wind cutter slowly dragged along the floor. Behind him, the grayish-brown carpet was already stained with blood. A group of Tang clan's generals were lying on the floor in disorder. They had already turned into corpses, and the remaining people followed Feng Jixing out with a respectful expression. Lightly waving his arm, Feng Jixing said indifferently, Everyone listen to my orders. The tiger amulets of the generals I killed will be distributed to all of you. From today onwards, all of you are Her Highness the Empress's men. All of you are important generals of the empire. Tomorrow morning, the army will come out and attack Iha nation. Yes, General Feng. Chapter 613. On the 27th day of the second month, in the dense forest of East Mountain in Lingnan province, the majestic army of the empire stopped at the foot of the mountain. Long Qianlin rode up the mountain to welcome Qin. After the crushing defeat at Songlin Valley, Qin Yi's hair had turned white as if it was covered with a layer of frost. Long Qianlin dismounted and knelt on the ground. I came late, please forgive me, Commander. Commander Long, please rise. Qin Yi personally helped Long Qianlin up. His eyes were filled with gratitude. Commander Long has brought 200,000 men, leaving such a strong force for our Iha country. It is a great merit. Long Qianlin looked up at Qin Yi. Commander, has Marshal Ji Yao really surrendered to the enemy? Qin Yi nodded. I misjudged Ji Yao. He is such a cowardly person. Commander Long, do you know what happened at Bailing City? I know. Long Qianlin said in a deep voice. Qin Yi has already stepped into the divine state. When she fought with Tang Xiaoxi in the sky above the 100-ridge city, the explosion of power formed a blood-red abyss. The abyss is so deep that you can't see its bottom. It's called the Crimson Abyss. Commander, the Crimson Abyss is still expanding. I'm afraid that the 100-ridge city can no longer be the capital. Qin Yi murmured, "Yes, I have the same thought. According to Commander Long, what do you think we should do?" Long Qianlin said, "Qianfeng's army is in a stalemate with Lin Muyu's army outside Songlin Valley. They have suffered great losses, the demonic race's food supplies are cut off, they will definitely retreat soon. At that time, Lin Muyu will meet up with Xiangyu, Tangjin, Luo Xin and the others. They have at least 300,000 soldiers, their morale is high, and they have the support of the mysterious cannons. It will be hard for us to win head-on. In my opinion, why don't we go around by Ling City, head for Yu City, and seek help from Venerable Luo Lan of the Seven World Palaces?" "Commander Long, are you going to give up Lingnan Province?" Lingnan Province was Qin Yi's fief. He naturally wasn't willing to give it up so easily. Long Qianlin then said, "There is no longer any danger in Lingnan Province to defend. Once Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing and Xiang Yu's armies arrive, it will be a flat plain, and with the power of the heavy artillery, we will not be able to fight against them. But Clear Mountain Province and Ling Kong Province have high mountains as a barrier, so it would not be easy for them to attack. We must retreat in order to advance and then send a letter to Marshal Ding Shi in Xiang City. With the east and west coordinating, we will be ready to counterattack the Empire's army." "All right, we'll do as Commander Long says." In the evening, the mighty army of Iha country left the forest and headed straight for Mingshan Province. In the southernmost part of Lingnan Province, surrounded by mountains, stood a magnificent palace. This was the Seven World Palace, Luo Lan's residence in the mortal world. It was also one of the most luxurious palaces in this world. Immortal Sovereign. A disciple knelt respectfully on a praying mat and said, "Master Han Jun has died for his country." "What? Han Jun is dead?" Luo Lan's eyes were cold as she asked, "Are you sure?" "Very sure. He was killed by Tang Xiaoxi in her nine-tailed form, but—" The disciple's lips curled into a smile. "I have good news for you, Immortal Sovereign." "Speak." Tang Xiaoxi vented her anger on Qin Yin and killed Qin Yin. Half of Bai Ling City was destroyed, and Tang Xiaoxi most likely died in this disaster. Furthermore, according to our information, Qin Yin stepped into the immortal state from the Holy King realm, and the Godhead she condensed was extremely powerful. It should be the Godhead of Heaven's will as recorded in the ancient books. When Qin Yin died, the blood abyss turned into a sea of lava, and Qin Yin's power crystallized from the lava. These crystallized golden crystals filled with spiritual energy, and if you can obtain these crystals for cultivation, you should be able to absorb a portion of the Overgod's power. "Is that so?" Luo Lan couldn't help but stand up. "Is what you said true?" "Absolutely." "Good. Disciples, follow me to the blood abyss. I want to see the place where Qin Yin's Overgod Godhead fell." The afterglow of the setting sun shone on the outskirts of the 100-ridge city. Dozens of miles of the blood abyss were evaporating with scorching power. From afar, it looked like a living hell. The people of the 100-ridge city were scrambling to escape. Everyone knew that the blood abyss was still expanding. If they didn't leave, it would be equivalent to waiting for death. Thud, thud, thud. Amidst the galloping of a horse, a rider galloped over. When he saw the blood abyss, Lin Muyu felt a lump in his throat, and tears rolled down his cheeks. He could feel the energy pervading the blood abyss. It was the energy of Qin Yin's firmament dragon crystal. Xiao Yin. He dismounted from the horse and knelt at the edge of the blood abyss in a daze. He looked into the depths of the abyss, trembling all over. He curled up there like a wounded beast, howling and crying. No one knew Qin Yin's strength better than Lin Muyu. Given Qin Yin's current strength, it was impossible for her to be killed by Tang Xiaoxi. The only explanation was that Qin Yin would rather be killed by Tang Xiaoxi than hurt Tang Xiaoxi with her own strength. However, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi both died in the blood abyss in the end. Lin Muyu howled and cried like a mad beast. His strength burst forth without any concealment, turning into a strong airflow that swept in all directions. Wave after wave of power impacted the fertile land. There were faint thunders in the sky, and even the earth was slowly trembling in response to Lin Muyu's strength. He had thought that he was the happiest person in the world with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. However, at this moment, Lin Muyu had lost everything. There was only despair left in his heart. Sir? Wei Chou looked at Lin Muyu from afar. His nose felt a lump in his throat, and tears rolled down his cheeks. Sidu Shui was sobbing uncontrollably. While wiping her tears, she asked Citizen, "Brother, tell me, why did this happen? Commander is such a good person. Why did God treat him like this?" Sidu Sen was silent. After a while, he said, "There are many things in the world. Who can say for sure?" At this moment, Lin Muyu suddenly stood up and jumped into the blood abyss. Sir, Sidu Shui was scared out of her wits. Sidu Sen and Wei Chou hurriedly flew forward. However, they only saw the rolling golden flames in the blood abyss and the blood-red lava. They could no longer see Lin Muyu's figure. But, why? Sidu Shui sat at the edge of the abyss and couldn't help but wail. Situ Sen slowly knelt down on one knee and lowered his proud head. "Lin Muyu, you will always be the glory of the empire. I, Xin, am honored to be your subordinate." Wei Chou stood there dumbfounded. He didn't move an inch. It was as if the sky had collapsed. The playful Lin Muyu, the resourceful Longdan Army Camp commander, the Grand Deacon Lin Muyu of the temple, and the outstanding Lin Muyu of the Blood Abyss had died just like that. The power in the Blood Abyss was surging. How many people could survive after jumping into it? Puff! There was a burning pain all over his body. Lin Muyu swam in the boiling lava. His robe was instantly burned, leaving only the armor and weapons protected by the divine seal. His face was full of fatigue and embarrassment, but more than that, he was disheartened. What could be more painful than losing Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi at the same time? The blood in his eye was getting thicker and thicker, almost suffocating him. In this way, he urged Fuxi's divine power to resist the erosion of the blood abyss. Lin Muyu swam to the place where Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi both died. In front of him, Qin Yin's breath was getting thicker and thicker. Tears flowed down uncontrollably, splashing into the lava. With a puff, they instantly evaporated, bringing with them an astringent air current that assaulted her eyes. When Lin Muyu arrived there, he saw a black rock standing up from the blood abyss. Around it there was a golden luster. That should be the essence of Qin Yin's godhead, right? Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu stretched out his palm, wanting to hold it, but the essence of the godhead instantly shattered into nothingness, turning into rays of golden light and disappearing into the air. Xiao Yin. Lin Muyu knelt on the rock, holding the star's sword with one hand. He pierced the blade into the rock to support his body. Soon, the dust in the blood abyss continued to fall, fusing with the rock. Lin Muyu's legs slowly petrified, becoming a part of the rock. He actually chose to petrify himself. Lin Muyu's eye was in a complete mess. She looked into the sky and let out a heart-wrenching roar. 7 Brilliance Demon Monarch. "Big brother, did you see that? Help me, help me." Outside the myriad worlds and stars, the 7 luminaries Demon Emperor stood at the edge of the palace in a daze, watching the scene in the Heaven Lake illusory ocean. His eyes reddened and tears almost fell. He clenched his fists and muttered, "Silly boy, why are you so stubborn?" At the side, a beautiful divine level expert dressed in a long dress said softly, "Demon Emperor. You is your brother. Since you care so much about him, why don't you help him?" "It's not that I don't want to help, but I can't." The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor sighed and said, "There is a cycle of reincarnation in life and death. Even gods will die. Moreover, Qin Yin is a god with a god's mandate. Once her god's mandate perishes, she can only escape into reincarnation. No one can save her. Sigh, then what should we do? This is Yu's destiny, his tribulation, his Tao. If you can see through this tribulation and prove his Tao, he will naturally be able to see through everything. Unfortunately, this silly boy. Ziyao, I can't do anything about this. You should pay more attention. If it's possible, go to the mortal world and help me persuade this boy. You have the god's mandate of life. Maybe you can help him." The corner of Ziyao's mouth curled up slightly and she said with a faint smile, "Demon Emperor, you said it yourself. This is his Tao. Only he can see through it. Sigh. The 7 luminaries demon emperor sighed and turned to leave. Xiao smiled and looked at the scene in the mortal world. She said, "You, oh you, Qin Yin's soul should have been destroyed. I can only help you up to this point. Don't give up." 3 days passed in the blink of an eye. In the crimson abyss, Lin Muyu was covered in dust. He knelt there like a stone statue, holding the stellar sword that had lost its luster. Everything below his chest had become one with the rock. Whoosh! The wind in the air moved and an old figure appeared. It was Qin Han. Looking at Lin Muyu's current state, Qin Han's heart ached. He said softly, "You my child? Why do you have to torture yourself like this?" Lin Muyu knelt on the ground in silence, not saying a word. Qin Han landed on the ground like an immortal and stood in front of him. He said, "Everything in the world has its karma. I know you love Xiao Yin deeply, but it's time to let go of everything. You and Xiao Yin met and knew each other in Lanyan City. This is fate. Xiao Yin was willing to fall in the crimson abyss. This is fate. Xiao Yin can let go. Why do you have to be so obsessed?" At this time, Lin Muyu finally raised her head and looked at Qin Han. She said softly, "It's not my obsession. It's just that in life, if one doesn't pursue the person they love, then what's the point of living?" Qin Han was silent for a long time. "This is your Tao. If you can prove your Tao, you will be able to see the godly state. If you can't see through it, you will make a mistake for the rest of your life. Ancestor is about to ascend to the heavenly realm. Take care of yourself." Chapter 6:14. On the 15th day of the 3rd month, the scorching temperature of the crimson abyss finally began to cool down slowly. However, there was still a cloud of smoke rising into the sky. Within the cloud of smoke, beams of golden energy slowly gathered and flew towards Lin Muyu's body as if they were being summoned. They played on his legs, abdomen, and the rocks on the surface of his body. He was still in the state of slow petrification. At this moment, Lin Muyu had almost given up on all cultivation. He only wanted to try his best to collect everything that Qin Yin had left behind in the crimson abyss. However, Lin Muyu could only collect the fragments of the celestial dragon crystal. What made him feel that something terrible had finally happened? In the crimson abyss, Qin Yin's aura became fainter and fainter as time passed, to the extent that he almost couldn't catch it anymore. Rustle, rustle. The sound of footsteps came from the rock stratum that had solidified not long ago. A group of people walked out from the cloud of smoke. It was Feng Jixing, Qin Yan, Wei Chou, Chu Yao, and the others. They had all arrived. As soon as she saw Lin Muyu's half-petrified appearance, Chu Yao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. Hot tears flowed out of her eyes. She walked straight forward and hugged Lin Muyu's already hardened body. She wailed loudly, "You don't be like this." "You." Feng Jixing carried his wind cutter and walked forward with a grave expression. He frowned and said, "You, Her Highness has already passed away. Why do you have to be like this? Besides, the Empire still needs you. The demon race has not been destroyed and the Iha nation is still in the ascendant. With Her Highness gone, the Empire needs someone to take charge. Although Ai Yen has the Qin bloodline, he is still too young and inexperienced. You are the former Emperor's foster son and Her Highness Yin's brother. If you continue to sink like this, the Empire's future will be bleak. Heroes will rise up and we will enter a truly chaotic world." Lin Muyu slowly raised his head and glanced at Feng Jixing with his lifeless eyes. He replied in a very dull voice, "Brother Feng, Xiao Yin was killed by Xiao Shi. I want to stay here with her. I want to do everything I can to find Xiao Yin's spirit." But, Feng Jixing frowned and said, "If Her Highness Ying was still alive, she would definitely not want you to do this. You are the future ruler of the Empire, how can you waste your time here?" "Brother Feng, you don't understand." Lin Muyu took a deep breath. Streams of King's fighting flame appeared on the surface of his body, protecting his life force. He looked at Feng Jixing and then at Chu Yao and said, "From the day I met Xiao Yin, I knew that she was my destiny. I can't escape, I can't hide. I'll leave the empire's matters to Brother Feng and Yen. I want to find Xiao Yin and bring her back. Brother, Qin Yan's tears rolled down. He knelt in front of Lin Muyu and said, Brother, when will you come back? How can General Feng and I support such a large empire? When I find Xiao Yin, I will naturally come back. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes and said, The poisonous air in the blood-red abyss is too strong. You should leave. Don't stay here and let the smoke damage your body. Chu Yao was the chief deacon of the Spirit Medicine Division. She naturally knew that the smoke in the blood-red abyss contained a strong poison. This was also one of the reasons why Lin Muyu's skin was black and his body was gradually turning to stone. But she had no choice. Just as Lin Muyu said, Qin Yin was his destiny. He had to stay here and could only stay here to search for Qin Yin's return. Wei Chou kicked the broken rocks on the ground. He was somewhat angry but didn't dare to explode. He said in a low voice, Darren, General Feng is leading 300,000 elite troops of Seven Seas City to attack Swift White Province's Sunset City. I am also leading the Longdan Army Camp to attack Sky Province. Soon, His Highness Qin Yan will lead the Imperial Army to Tianshu Province to defend against the advanced troops of the demon race. Darren, I hope you wake up soon. Lin Muyu opened his eyes again and looked at Feng Jixing, saying, Big Brother Feng, there are no remnants of Xiao Shi's aura in the blood-red abyss. I suspect that Xiao Shi is still alive. Help me find her. I want to ask Xiao Shi why she wanted to kill Xiao Yin and why she went back on the oath she made back then. And I will. Feng Jixing took a deep breath and knelt down on one knee towards Lin Muyu. He cupped his fists and said, Since your Highness Yu is temporarily unwilling to leave, then Feng Jixing and Qin Yan will lead the army to attack Lingnan and recover the lost land. I hope that your Highness Yu will return soon. I will come see you again. And everyone go. Lin Muyu slowly closed his eyes. The smoke in the blood-red abyss once again slowly fell on his face and eyelashes, speeding up the process of his body turning into stone. Chu Yao stood up and wiped away her tears, saying, You, I will wait for your return in Lanyan City. Everyone left. Lin Muyu still maintained the posture of kneeling on one knee and holding the sword with one hand. The tattered cloak pieces that were blown away by the strong wind no longer moved. Instead, they fused with the stone and remained frozen in the air. In the surroundings, specks of faint golden starlight danced in the blood-red abyss, but in the end, they were all directed at Lin Muyu's hand that was holding the sword. Rays of golden light lingered around the star's sword and seeped into Lin Muyu's body. A few days later, thunder rumbled in the sky. Rays of golden light flickered in the sky above by Ling City. It was the oracle. No, it was the descent of the god's truth. Only the god of heaven could descend upon the mortal world with such an earth-shattering aura. The dark night sky was brightly illuminated. The smoke in the blood-red abyss was poisonous, so Bai Ling City had almost become a wasteland. People left their homeland one after another, but there were still some scavengers looking at the sky in the middle of the night. They were dumbfounded. They had never seen such a spectacle in their entire lives. A beautiful figure stepped on the clouds and arrived above the blood-red abyss step by step. It was a beautiful fairy. Her face was exquisite and flawless, her skin was white as cream, and her figure was graceful. She could be said to be a peerless beauty. However, the pieces of soft armor that covered her body and the sharp sword in her hand let people know that this fairy was a sharp and unapproachable person. The person who came was Ziyao, the #1 god emperor under the 7 luminaries demon emperor. Ziyao's beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu, who was slowly petrifying in the blood-red abyss. She couldn't help but feel sad. She floated down and stepped into the blood-red abyss with golden oracle halos. The sound of her exquisite and small battle boots stepping on the rock stratum woke Lin Muyu up. Who are you? Lin Muyu asked indifferently. She wasn't moved by Ziyao's powerful god emperor power. Ziyao held her long sword and walked forward step by step. The surrounding poisonous smoke retreated automatically, as though it was afraid of her. Ziyao stared at Lin Muyu, whose lower body was already wrapped in rocks. She said, Are you really going to petrify in this void? I'm not. Lin Muyu slowly opened his palm. Rays of golden power were enshrouded in it. He muttered, Xiao Yin's power will guide me to her. I can definitely do it. Xiao couldn't help but feel a lump in her throat. She was amused and touched. She said, Silly boy, do you think the celestial dragon crystal can guide you to Xiao Yin? Who are you exactly? Xiao bowed and said, I'm one of the god emperors under the 7 luminaries demon emperor, Fairy Xiao. Xiao, Lin Muyu looked up at her and said, You're a god emperor. You must know where Xiao Yin is. You must know how to resurrect Xiao Yin. Am I right, Xiao? Tell me. No. Xiao shook her head gently and said, The cycle of life and death is an unchanging law. Even god emperors can't control it. Back then, the demon emperor was able to resurrect you because he used his divine power to suppress your 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls so that your soul wouldn't dissipate. Naturally, you could reconstruct your body. But now, can you still feel Qin Yin's aura in the Crimson Abyss? Her 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. Give up. Qin Yin has already escaped into the cycle of reincarnation. Even god emperors can't control this fact. Why are you still chasing after her so bitterly? No, it can't be. Lin Muyu suddenly withdrew his palm and held the celestial dragon crystal spiritual essence that he had collected. He said, The power of the celestial dragon crystal will guide me to her. I will definitely find Xiao Yin. She must be waiting for me somewhere. As he spoke, a stream of turbid blood flowed down from the corner of Lin Muyu's eyes. He could no longer shed tears. He could only shed tears of blood and rocks. Ziyao's delicate body trembled. She bit her red lips and said, Do you really want to persist like this? Fairy Ziyao. Lin Muyu looked at her and said, I heard that once the divine truth of the heaven realm descends upon the human realm, it will consume 1,000 years of cultivation. Did you come here just to tell me to give up? Ziyao nodded. That's right. Qin Yin's 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls have already dissipated. She might have already started a new cycle of reincarnation. You definitely won't be able to wait for her here. Give up. Your innate talent and comprehension are outstanding. There's no need to ruin your cultivation here, right? What message does the demon emperor want you to pass to me? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh miserably and said, I think I understand what he means. Ziyao, thank you for coming. Go back and help me tell the demon emperor that he's waiting for me in the heaven realm. One day, I will ascend and stand shoulder to shoulder with him in the myriad of stars. Ziyao bowed once again and said, Then, this little girl will take her leave. You take care. Ziyao leaped up and soared into the sky. Rays of golden ring-shaped light lingered around her as she flew. In the blink of an eye, her speed became faster and faster. Finally, she broke through the restraints of space. Ziyao's figure disappeared and she had already entered another plane. Heaven realm. You're back? You've worked hard. In the pond of illusion, the 7 luminaries demon emperor stood there alone. His gaze was fixed on Lin Muyu in the pond of illusion. He frowned and said, This silly boy, his Tao, what kind of Tao is it? Ziyao said softly, Demon emperor, didn't you say it yourself? Heaven and earth change, only the heart remains the same. I think this sentence is most suitable for Lin Muyu. Heaven and earth change, a lifetime of glory and splendor, even the great Tao Xiaoyao can't move his heart. Such a person is worthy to be your brother, Demon Emperor. Ah, that's right, that's right. The 7 luminaries Demon Emperor clenched his fists and said, Then, I'll wait for him in the heaven realm to stand shoulder to shoulder with me. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Immortal Journey YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.